Attempts again to pretend climate science doesn't exist. Now he wants to, get this, to roll back EPA protections on everything related to climate change. Everything. And are we all shoving our heads in the sand? Please call or text.
I'm Marjorie Egan, then it's art editor and culture show host Jared Bowen joining us to talk about Jacob's Pillow Festival out in Western Mass and President Trump's effort to rename part of the Kennedy Center for his third wife, First Lady Melania. That's all ahead. BPR on GBH and MEPM, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News, I'm Dale Willman. In a post on social media, President Trump has announced imports from India will face a 25% tariff starting this Friday. As NPR's Tamara Keith reports, this is part of a series of announcements ahead of Trump's August 1st tariffs deadline.
For weeks, administration officials have been hinting a trade deal with India was just around the corner. And Trump starts off his post describing India as a friend. But he goes on to complain that in addition to having high tariffs, India has, quote, the most strenuous and obnoxious non-monetary trade barriers of any country. Another grievance, Trump says India buys the majority of its military equipment and large quantities of oil from Russia. Trump said there would be penalties for that, in addition to the 25% tariff he's imposing. The rate is barely changed from the one Trump first set in April on what he called Liberation Day. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
The U.S. economy expanded at a 3% annual rate in the second quarter after shrinking during the first 3 months of the year. President Trump quickly posted that it's now time for interest rates to come down. The Federal Reserve has held rates steady for months over fears of a possible recession. The Fed announces its latest decision on rates later today. UCLA has agreed to a $6.4 million settlement in the lawsuit brought by 3 Jewish students and a professor. They allege the university failed to prevent anti-Semitic behavior that occurred during campus protests last year. From member station KQED in San Francisco, Azul Dahlstrom-Ekman has our reports.
The lawsuit focuses on pro-Palestinian protests at UCLA last year. The plaintiffs said they were denied access to campus buildings by activists in an encampment, effectively creating what they called a Jew exclusion zone. The school, they said, also barred campus police from interfering. Jordan Varberg is an attorney for the plaintiffs. He says the settlement sets a precedent.
That if you allow this sort of anti-Semitic exclusion on your own campus, you're going to face consequences from a federal court and from plaintiffs like our clients.
The University of California said in a statement that it's, quote, committed to doing better moving forward. For NPR News, I'm Azul Dahlstrom-Ekman in San Francisco.
The investigation into Monday's shooting in an office building in New York City continues. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch says they're now tracking the gun that was used in the attack.
The weapon used, an AR-15 style assault rifle, was assembled by Mr. Tamura using a lower receiver purchased by an associate. We have located that associate and others, and will be questioning him about that purchase.
The gunman also had a revolver that he had legally purchased back in Arizona, but that gun was left in his car. 4 people were killed in that shooting. You're listening to NPR News.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The Cannabis Control Commission has unanimously approved the rules which will govern social consumption of marijuana in Massachusetts. Herald reports that the move clears the way for so-called pot cafes to eventually operate in the Commonwealth. The approval comes 2 days after the commission members debated the matter. If you've ever been to a cannabis cafe in Amsterdam, that seems to be the model the commission is looking at. Nevertheless, though, the key word on when they'll become a reality in the Bay State, that key word is eventually. A New Bedford clinical lab and its owner have pleaded guilty to defrauding Mass Health of $4.7 million through false insurance claims. Standard Times reports that Optimum Labs, a now closed toxicology company, and its owner, William Owens, admitted in Suffolk County Superior Court to charges tied to 2 Mass Health fraud and kickback schemes. Owens received 2 suspended 2.5-year jail sentences and will serve 3 years of probation. In sports, Red Sox Twins wrap up their series in Minnesota today. It's a 1:15 start. Then it's back to friendly Fenway for the Red Sox, who play the Astros this weekend. In the forecast, sunny to partly cloudy today, high near 90. Yeah, another hazy, hot, and Henry day. Light clouds, low 70s overnight. Rain and relief from the heat tomorrow. Temperatures in the mid-70s, then rain in upper 60s on Friday. Weekend looks good, though. 87 degrees outside our studios in Brighton. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One with the Capital One Saver Card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org.
He's Tim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Thank you. And broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. You're also streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Marjorie. So the Environmental Protection Agency might need a new name. The Trump administration is proposing yesterday getting rid of a landmark scientific finding that determined carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases endanger public health. It's known as the endangerment finding, and it is the legal basis for virtually every regulation intended to curb climate change. Let me repeat that. It is the legal basis for virtually every single regulation that's been passed in this country intended to curb climate change. The EPA might just get rid of a scientific finding in order to suit the Trump regime's political agenda. This comes just 6 days after the UN's top court, that's the International Court of Justice, said that states must protect people from the, quote, urgent and existential threat of climate change. So much for that. We're opening the lines at 877-301-8970. From this nightmare at the EPA, lack of enthusiasm for replacing gas guzzlers with EVs. And by the way, it's not just conservatives now doing it.
Yeah.
Liberals are buying fewer EVs. To whatever Trump's latest lies about windmills and whales going loco are we all just sticking our heads in the ever-heating sands about this, what actually can be done when science itself is under attack by this administration? The number is 877-301-8970. You know what's almost as enraging, Marjorie, as the fact itself? You know how many times we've talked about the fact that a couple of Trump's nominees to the Supreme Court lied directly in their confirmation hearings about supporting Roe v. Wade as precedent. Then they voted to repeal it in the Dobbs case. Lee Zeldin, we commented upon this at the time. Lee Zeldin, former congressperson, I think from New York, I'm not 100% sure, during his nomination to be the administrator of the EPA, is testifying before the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works. Listen to the whole thing, but particularly listen to the first line of what Zeldin, now the confirmed administrator of the EPA, had to say.
I believe that climate change is real, as I told you. As far as President Trump goes, the context that I've heard him speak about it was with a criticism of policies that have been acted because of climate change. And I think that he's concerned about the economic costs of some policies where there's a debate and a difference of opinion between parties.
Well, actually, there's no difference of opinion about climate change except by people who are cooking the books. Let me repeat the first line. Zeldin says in his confirmation, I believe that climate change is real, as I told you, and now he has proposed getting rid of the underpinning of everything this government has done to curb climate change. It is unbelievable.
Well, you just feel, this is one of those things where you just feel sort of very hopeless about the situation because we're out of time to avoid the worst of it, and we're not doing anything to avoid the little less worse of it. And I'm really interested in people that are young. I mean, the worst of it, I'll be 6 feet under. But you know, if you're 20 years old now, or you've got young children now, I mean, here we are today, right? How many days in the summer have we not been able to go out? You couldn't take your baby for a walk yesterday afternoon to the park because it was too hot. You couldn't go out in the street yesterday because it was too hot if you had any kind of health conditions. So I don't know. I'm trying to be optimistic.
Why
you know how they used to say?
You?
You know, they used to say during the Russian nuke thing when we were kids, learn to love the bomb. You know, that was the famous Dr. Strangelove kind of thing. You know, I'm trying to learn to love the heat and the air pollution.
You actually had an optimistic note.
The ticks. Texas.
I don't want to pass over.
Yep.
You made a very, very good point.
What's
A
that?
couple of seconds ago, you said when the full consequences of these kinds of policies are effectuated, you and I will be dead.
We'll be dead.
It's not nearly as much
We'll
of
be
a
dead.
catastrophe as I thought.
But usually in the summertime, you can go out and sit in your porch, or you can go out and sit in your backyard, or you can go out and sit in the park. I mean, it's going to cool off tomorrow, and that's great. But this is, what is it, it's a third heat wave we've had this summer. I mean, I've given up. I used to you make fun of me about the wet sheet technique, with sleeping in the heat.
It's a great idea.
You got to give in. You can't
Forget just the heat. Look at every corner of this country.
Yeah, the wildfires, the floods.
I mean,
Look at Texas. I mean, Trump got up there and talked about this. Said this is a 500-year flood. It's a 1,000-year flood. Well, it's not. All that is out the window now because everything has changed because of climate change. Flood zones are changing because of climate change. So if you go, look for houses now and you see a sub pump in the basement in the house you're looking at, you better be careful because if there's a sub pump in the basement now, your house could be floating away down the road. So we're not doing anything. It's depressing, but I'm not sure what to do about it during his administration. I'm just not sure.
We should say one, I guess, cautionary note. This is a proposal. They're clearly going to try to implement this thing. It's going to take a while. There'll be legal challenges, but that's not really the issue today. The issue today is the President of the United States, through his lying head of the EPA, is attempting to take away whatever power the government of the United States has to curb climate change. And my concern about this, getting back to the sticking the head in the sand kind of thing, it's going to be like not even a one-day story. It'll be a one-hour story. And when he has some press conference in an hour talking about windmills or some other cockamamie thing and talking about Epstein stealing his workers from him at Mar-a-Lago, we're going to move on to that. It's just, and by the way, it's not just distractions, because a lot of what he does that people call distractions are disasters for huge chunks of the population. But with the next disaster or distraction is announced, let's say at noon or 12:30 or 3:30, we're going to move on. This is one of the most consequentially horrible things this administration has proposed doing, and we should take it really seriously.
Well, you know what's upsetting about this for me too? Like, I grew up between, the biggest coal plant in New England was the Brayton Power Plant, right across from where I lived. It was in Somerset, and the other end of the city was the Montauk Coal Power Plant. So between two coal power plants, and the kind of like the joke, how many people wound up with asthma, But the bright side was, you thought, you know what? We've realized these coal power plants are polluting everything, and they're giving people asthma. It's making it very difficult to breathe as you get older. Sometimes you get really sick from asthma. Sometimes you die from asthma. But the EPA was there to deal with that and to regulate emissions from power plants. The EPA was there to clean up when there were these Superfund sites, like the most infamous one was that Love Canal years ago, but up in Woburn they had a Superfund site. You want the EPA to come in and clean those things up. But that kind of stuff is all over. And you know what was funny? They were talking about, of course, the oil companies are very happy about this, but even the people from the petroleum industry that have to do with cars, Trump is basically saying that the emissions don't matter. It's fine, just keep emitting. And even though transportation is the biggest source of these greenhouse gases, but even the guys from the big car and oil companies are saying they're going to work to reduce emissions. Well, if emissions aren't a problem, why are they working to reduce emissions? They know, and this is like another one of those big lies.
Can I vent one last thing?
Yep.
There are 53 Republicans in the United States Senate, and a couple of them are marginally sane. How many? I can't remember how many Republicans in the House. Is it 224 or something? Whatever it is. Has one Republican that you know of, occasionally they vote the correct way. Has one Republican stood up in the face of this assault on efforts to curb climate change and said a word about the truth and the reality of this?
I think all those Republicans, many of whom are very holy, wear their crosses. Mike Johnson talking about his religion all the time, how holy he is. No, they just did this. They just approved Emile Beauvais to be a federal judge forever.
Trump's former lawyer,
who has said over and over, according to these whistleblowers who lost their jobs in the Department of Justice by telling on him, that he just says, basically, F the courts.
F the courts.
That was his line. Just ignore every ruling in the courts.
Not one whistleblower,
That's right.
not two.
That's right.
3 whistleblowers. He's confirmed. By the way, it's a lifetime appointment.
It's a lifetime
Federal
appointment.
Appellate Court. And I assume, didn't you say this the other day?
Court.
Trump will try to put him
Supreme Court. So
you know why? Because there are not enough white guys on the Supreme Court. I think we can agree. There are not enough white men on the Supreme Court.
Maybe my superficial self. Look at a picture of Emile Beauvais and look at a picture of Roy Cohn, who was, Trump's mentor, a very nasty guy. they look so much alike. You could just see the wheels turning in their heads the same way.
Let's go to Timmons in Providence. You're first. Thank you so much for calling. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim and Marjorie. I've been listening to you guys for years. I consider it part of my coping strategy.
You're terrific.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry we're depressing you today.
We're depressing ourselves, so don't feel so bad.
This is what I work on, so it's great to have you guys talking about it.
Oh, good.
I direct this Climate Social Science Network, which is a global network of 800 scholars who are working on exactly this issue of why people are not acting on climate change.
By the way, before you tell us what work you're doing, what's the name of the organization, Timmons?
Yes, it's called the Climate Social Science Network, or CSSN.org.
Great. Keep going.
Again, we have people in 49 countries now, and we keep getting bigger. And the point is that this is not just happening naturally that people didn't act on climate change, but rather it's been really engineered. We've been manipulated to, think it's impossible, to think that fossil fuels are really required for a good life, and that transition off of them, which we've known now for 4 decades we needed to do, was going to be too difficult or impossible. Really, the technology's there, we have the policy, and we have tons of science, as you've said. We have just mountains of science showing that humans are changing the climate, and that it's bad and it's getting worse quickly. So, these guys have been quite successful using PR techniques, building think tanks, university programs, political influence campaigns. They've been successful at really avoiding the policy that we've need to undertake.
Timmons, maybe if we have to do the money route like we do so much in the United States of America, because people aren't going to be able to afford their home insurance anymore because the home insurance companies are going to go broke bailing people out from the wildfires and the floods and even interior sections from rivers. But I also wonder, here everybody's got their air conditioners on today, right? Your air conditioning bill is going to be huge on days like this because it costs a lot of money. Bill McKibben, that we're lucky enough to have visiting us once a month, talks about the fact that wind and solar and these alternative energies shouldn't be called alternative anymore because they are now cheaper. So is there a pocketbook angle that we could persuade more people if you want to keep having to pay, be subject, maybe gas is $2.99, maybe tomorrow gas or 6 months from now is $4.50, that they won't be subject to these fluctuations?
Yeah, somebody once said a while ago that your utility bill is like the biggest message that you could put in people's mailboxes that we need to act on climate change, or we need to address the problem with our dependence on really volatile prices of natural gas in New England, for example. But I think, hoping that prices are going to drive the change that we need is maybe a little unrealistic. That is that, these are powerful industries that are in there lobbying and basically buying politicians in a way that, environmentalist and citizens groups really have not been able to match, or have not chosen to, because they really thought that good ideas and good policy would be just, lead people to logically take up.
You say, I think they did prove that ideas and truth matters when Joe Biden's government made the largest investment in curbing climate change in the history of this country, if not the world. The problem is we have elected somebody who is hell-bent on authoritarianism and destroying everything that doesn't make him and his friends money. Keep doing the wonderful work you're doing, and please stay in touch with us, Timmons. If you want to email us something about your organization, we'd love to hear about it. It's at bpr@wgbh.org. Timmons, thanks for the call.
There's a great piece in The Guardian about geothermal energy. They just built a new school near me in Brookline. It's going to be geothermally heated, which is a really wonderful thing. It's a clean energy source. But there is some bipartisan support about this, according to the Guardian piece, and calling it a great resource that we have to use right now. But the Trump administration, once again, is fumbling this. We now have an advantage in the United States over China in geothermal energy, but he's going to bring us down the wrong road, and so the Chinese will be making more money off of this, like they do off EVs, the cars, and the alternative energies to a large degree already.
I criticize you almost every day when you read a text from trolls, so let me read a text from trolls.
Okay.
And make a request. Let's Move On is watching on YouTube. Climate change, I think it's called summer. I predict the next climate change will occur around October.
Oh, my God.
It's called autumn. Let's move on. Since you listen to the show, I'm begging you for the following. I'm making a request. I'm asking that you call right now, 877-301-8970. Call us on the phone. We'll take your call next to find out if you are a troll, as you probably are, or if you were as dumb as you appear. And I think the way we can draw that conclusion is by having you give us a buzz. So please call us and we'll pop you up to the top of the list.
It's hard to believe anybody believes that anymore.
Do you think even Donald Trump? I don't
No, he doesn't.
He knows it's
owning
his
the
own financial interest.
Well, it's his own financial interest, and anything that look at, he's going after everything that to show his power. He just is going after everything, whether it's universities, whether it's law firms, whether it's climate. And this is, of course, more of he sees this as a liberal cause. So just stick it down the lib's throat.
Can I quote my favorite commentator? That'd be me.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say again. What I said yesterday. Even though this hasn't been effectuated yet, it's only been announced that they're going to get rid of this, whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's possible the courts may stop them.
It's possible. Nevertheless, this is their goal. What kind of uprising have you seen in the 24 hours since this is announced?
I haven't seen one.
Nor have I. Someone's going to call and say, again, there are 8 people in Marlboro that are out on the corner, which is great, and we celebrate them. But really, people, get with it.
It's summertime, and people may be on vacation.
Oh, that's true.
But we have a nice list from the Patriot Ledger today talking about all of the beaches in Massachusetts that are currently closed because of cyanobacteria, which is not all about climate change. Some of it is about septic tanks, and some of it is about people fertilizing too close to the water. But a lot of it is about the increase in the warmth of the water. There's like more than 35 beaches that are shut down, from Yarmouth to Salem to Eastham to Ashland. So people that would go to the lakes or ponds to cool off on days like this can't go because they'll get sick.
Well, you know what
and
the good news is?
The dogs, if dogs go in this kind of water, they could die.
You know what the other good news is in terms of those beaches that are not closed?
What?
You can't get on them. They're private. So there you go.
Well, no, a lot of these are town beaches.
I'm kidding. Harry and a car. Well, a lot of town beaches you can't get on, by the way. We've discussed this. We did it 2 days ago.
Okay. Well,
Harry in a car.
Some of these are public beaches, Jim. I just want to point that out. They're a place where everybody can go to.
Harry in a car. You're next on BPR. Welcome. Hi.
Hey, Jim.
Hello.
Listen, I know Trump's terrible. I know it.
However,
you don't have to tell me every day, but he's the president of the United States.
Yeah, he is.
We got to fight back, not say, oh man, they're going to do this. No, we got to stand up.
I agree with you.
You're not standing.
Actually, I am standing as we speak. Harry, I know it's hard to believe. I am. Yeah. What would you like me to do? Hey, Harry, I totally agree with you, except the criticism of me part. What would you like? What would you like me to do?
Listen, I'll give you like a Johnny Carson example.
Johnny Carson.
When he was on TV, he talked about Ford, and he said, Ford, you'd understand this, came to the press and said, I want to talk about 5 or 6 things.
Yeah.
But all he could talk about was Ford because he forgot the other 2.
Yeah.
You got to put this guy. You can't just say he's terrible, he's bad. You got to put him up. You got to play a little bit of him and show a little bit of him. Just not all.
Okay, you know what I'm going to do? You want to play a little. Harry, I take your criticism to heart. Don't go away. Thank you for your call. Here's Trump's press conference in Scotland the other week, where he weighed in brilliantly, I'd say, on windmills. He was supposed to be talking about the trade deal with the European Union. Instead, he went on to exhibit his incredibly deep understanding of windmills. Here he is.
But more important than that is it ruins the landscape. It kills the birds. They're noisy. You have a certain place in the Massachusetts area.
That's called Massachusetts,
that
actually.
Over the last 20 years had 1 or 2 whales wash ashore. And over the last short period of time, they had 18. Okay? Because it's driving them loco. It's driving them crazy. Now, windmills will not come. It's not going to happen in the United States.
No.
I would love to see. Today I'm playing the best course, I think, in the world, Turnberry. Even though I own it, it's probably the best course in the world, right?
The greatest ever.
And I look over the horizon and I see 9 windmills.
9.
It's like right at the end of the 18. I said, isn't that a shame? What a shame.
Harry, that was for you. So I hope you're feeling a little. I'm not quite sure what Harry's point was. I think his point was we have to do something, and he's criticizing me for not doing enough. He's probably right.
Well, I like
we
to
have to
think
do something.
I like to think, Jim, that we're doing our teeny tiny part to just bring the latest on climate to people that might be listening. I think we're doing a little teeny tiny something, but we do have to do more. We got to do more about everything. I mean, we're going down the chutes really quickly here. But there were like 4 lies in 3 sentences in that.
In the windmill thing.
In the windmill thing. And what's, like I said, I've a couple of times, I hear people. I've heard people all the time, friends of mine, people I know, that tell me that the windmills are killing the whales. So they believe this baloney. The windmills have got nothing to do with the whales dying. It's fishing lines and it's collisions with boats.
Al on the road. Welcome to the show. You got a minute. Take it away, Al.
Hey, guys. I can't believe that the human race is going to... Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't believe that the human race is going to end because of willful ignorance.
Yeah.
We've decided we're not going to believe the information that's in front of us. This actually goes against our survival instinct to preserve the future for future generations.
Well, we're rejecting science. I hearken back to this. One of the people I respect most from the last decade in America, Anthony Fauci, was on our show. We asked him how worried he was about the anti-science movement in this country, and he said he was as nervous, if not more, than we are. RFK, anti-science. Donald Trump,
RFK used to be a big environmental lawyer.
I know he was.
Before he went bananas.
Today, anti-science. Donald Trump, anti-science. Lee Zeldin, the head of the EPA, anti-science. And the American people, you're right, willful ignorance.
You know,
Al, thanks for the call.
if you haven't seen, or anybody who hasn't seen the movie Don't Look Up, it's with Leonardo DiCaprio. It was talking about an asteroid that's about to hit the Earth, and all the people are trying to tell that the asteroid is going to come, it's going to kill us all, and everybody kind of says, oh well, no problem. And then of course the asteroid hits the Earth and kills them all, and that's the end of the movie. It's not very uplifting. Okay, we're talking about climate change. You're listening to BPR on NEPM. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. If you want to call us, the number is 877-301-8970. And we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Quick break. We'll be right back on climate change.
Cyber criminals can make a lot of money by locking companies out of their own computer systems and demanding a ransom to restore access. Hospitals in the UK are especially vulnerable.
They just have to get their healthcare system back up and running, and so they're often incentivized to pay.
That story and more global news next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, helping families overcome the college planning stress. Committed to providing trusted guidance with calculators, step-by-step videos, and more. Details at mefa.org. And The Art Drive, a juried open studio tour this Friday through Sunday. You can visit artists in their studios along the seacoast of Dartmouth and Westport. Learn more at the-art-drive.com.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. If you're just joining us, we're talking about environmental protection, actually lack of environmental protection, climate change, and the push by the Trump administration yesterday to completely gut the science at the core of the EPA's efforts, at least until Trump, to combat climate change. The number is 877-301-8970.
We have a text from Keith listening on NEPM in Orange, Mass. I will have had my EV for 1 month starting August 8th. It's an absolute delight to drive. There's no way this country survives 3.5 more years of Trump. I fear the planet is already beyond the point of no return for the ecological niche humans live in. I hope for my grandchildren's sake, I'm wrong. Keith, thank you for that text. Bill McKibben has said to us, we already are past the point where we can turn things around completely. The hope is that we'll be able to turn things around somewhat, but we're on a scale not to turn them around. And the United States is the biggest polluter in the world, and if this is our attitude, it's gonna do damage everywhere else. And somebody else just sent me a thing about breaking news. It's hot in July. And again, you should really try to do a little research. We've been breaking records all this
Every month.
We broke records last month. This is not the usual July heat. And you might want to wake up a little bit. It amazes me sometimes that people don't pay more attention and to what's really going on here.
Here's an anonymous
here's a good
texter.
one.
The science isn't in on the whales yet. You are as anti-science on the issue as Trump. We don't know yet. Ask Cy. Well, actually, you're wrong. While we did not say anything other than the fact that there is no evidence that what Trump is saying about the whale deaths is true. Period. He made it up. He made it up. Period.
Well,
we don't need to ask anybody.
Also, how are the windmills killing the whales? Are the whales ramming into them? Is that the theory?
They're going loco.
Are the blades falling off and hitting them in the head? Think about that, texter. How exactly are the windmills killing the whales?
Here is the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. This is for the anonymous texter. Quote, there are no known links between large whale deaths and ongoing offshore wind activities. Is that enough, or is that not enough? I think it is.
Yeah, and apparently our we have a text about our Eve Zuckoff, our colleague down at CAI, reporting a great piece about the scientists actively researching this with lobsters and whales, I guess. I don't know. We haven't got the
She's now
last
BUR,
word.
by the way. She was a CI.
Yeah.
She's a great reporter. Carol in the car. Hi. Hello.
Hello?
I believe hello is in order. Hi, next. Hi.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
I didn't realize I was going to be connected.
I'm sorry. And we're glad to have you, Carol. What's up?
So I was just saying that, I wake up every morning with a feeling of dread in the pit of my stomach.
I know
the feeling.
I know.
Hi. Directly down the road to being a third world country.
Yeah.
And I want to know what else to do, because I go to protests, I sign petitions, I write my congressmen, I even write to Republicans saying they should be ashamed of themselves. What else do we do? Because we need to stop this maniac.
Well, can I tell you what you should do? Usually the question is tougher when coming from other people. You should tell everybody you know to do exactly what you do. That's what everybody should do. Go to protests, write letters, write to Republicans and write to Democrats. You were doing it exactly right. If a lot more people, there's another headline, Carol, in the Globe today. There was one yesterday. We discussed it with Lee Pelton. I can't remember what the was it about healthcare cuts at BMC? I think it was. Not at BMC, but about the federal healthcare cuts. Another story today in the Globe, Carol, saying dozens, that's the word in the headline, dozens protest X. And whatever it is they were protesting, I can't remember because I read it early this morning, affected hundreds of thousands of people in this region. And dozens are protesting. So the answer is be like you, Carol, and we'll be in a lot better shape. And I wake up with the same pit, and I'm sure Marjorie does too. Carol, thanks for the call. We appreciate
they're
it.
also talking about records are tumbling in states all across the country in terms of the heat, life-threatening heat dome. 160 million people across the United States of America. How many people are in the United States?
330 or something?
So almost half of us.
I don't know.
25 states under this extreme heat weather thing. And the wildfires, of course, have to do with extreme heat. And the floods have to do with extreme heat. When you talk about people doing something that seems so crazy, we had this horrible tragedy with these campers at that Camp Mystic in Texas. And they've had floods
Where
there.
they still haven't found a lot of the people.
They've had a lot of floods there over the years. It's not a flood zone or whatever you call it. But a few years back, they built more cabins in something called the Flood Way, which is the way when the Guadalupe River flooded, the way the river is going to go. That's where they built the cabins. That's where they put little 8-year-old girls at this camp. And they knew this. And you think, why would you do that? Why would you do that? It's as if, we have the information and we're just kind of ignoring it.
Why would Republican governors turn down free money from the federal government and Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act, which would mean that thousands, if not millions, more of their residents would have better health care?
That's what this government is about, sticking it to the liberals.
Exactly.
Sticking it to Barack Obama, sticking it to Kamala Harris. That's what we're about now. The United States of America is about getting even, making fun of people. It's really incredible.
Betty in the car. Got a minute, Betty. Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to say, if there was no such thing as climate change,
The USDA would not have changed all the gardening zones based on the last 5 years' temperatures increases.
It's a fine point.
Yeah,
By the way, their position, in all fairness, is he doesn't address what he said in his confirmation hearing, Lee Zeldin, about there being climate change. He said that the EPA has no legal authority granted by Congress to do any of the things that they've done. So he would weasel out of your point and I guess say the issue is Congress didn't give us this power. But you are totally right. You are totally and completely right, Betty. Thanks for the call. I'm working myself into a total frenzy here.
Richard Denver says, we ain't seen nothing yet. Next step, repeal gravity. This is going to happen. There'll be an effort by the Trump administration to say, there's no such thing as gravity. Get over it. And you drop the apple, just like Newton did, and it falls on the ground.
Still does.
But
Not for long.
there isn't. Don't believe what your eyes are telling you. That's kind of what he's
Speaking of
telling us.
apples, we have a story with Cy Montgomery
About
today
apples?
about
It's great.
elephants and apples that is unbelievable.
Okay, coming up after a quick break, we're going to talk to GBH's arts editor, culture show host Jared Barron. We're going to talk about the efforts to rename the Kennedy Center for the internationally known art patrons Donald and Melania Trump. We're also going to talk about some great art events and what you can see art-wise out in Western Massachusetts. And for the people that are listening in NEPM, special for them, I'm Marjorie Egan, he's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, journalist James Sullivan. His book on the history of American protest songs has become the inspiration for an ongoing concert series anchored to the protest songs of the past and present. Plus presidential pets. A new exhibition at the JFK Library and Museum showcases the White House's animal occupants. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Creative Playthings, open for the Massachusetts Sales Tax Holiday August 9th and 10th. Committed to supporting kids' outdoor active play this summer, offering swing sets, trampolines, basketball hoops, and more. CreativePlaythings.com. And the Boston Symphony Orchestra, presenting the 2025 season of Tanglewood, showcasing the beauty of incredible surroundings and world-class music. Tanglewood, where music goes for the summer. Tanglewood.org.
Okay, wait 1 second. I gotta write one thing down. Hi, everybody. How are you?
Okay.
No, I'll do this. Goes for the summer. Okay. Hi, welcome back to BPR and GBH. I had a thing to write. What do you care? I mean, on NEPM, I'm Marjorie. No, you're Marjorie Egan.
Yes, I am.
I'm Jim Browdy. We're live from the library, stream at youtube.com/GBH News. Okay, we're joined now at the BPL by Jared Bowen. I know who he is. Beautiful shirt, by the way. GBH News Executive Arts Editor, host of The Culture Show. It airs daily at 89.7 at 2 o'clock. And for our friends in Western Mass, they can get their dose of Jared and Company Saturday, 7 p.m. on 88.5 NEPM. Hello, Jared.
Good morning.
Hey
I finished
there.
writing all my things down.
Okay, so there's an effort going on now to rename the Kennedy Center after
Which
the
part?
international arts patrons, the Trumps.
Yeah, so there are a couple of efforts underway right now. So I guess we'll tell you what's underway and then what they can and can't do according to law. So a couple of weeks ago, there was an effort by a GOP congressman to fit it into a budgetary bill, hoping to get approval that way to name the Opera House, which is a theater within the Kennedy Center after Melania Trump. And this is the place where, of course, they perform opera, musicals, things of that nature. Now there is a most recent effort to just rename the whole thing after Donald Trump. This is an effort that just came underway a few days ago. So, of course, we're talking about renaming the Kennedy Center, which was named for a president who believed firmly in the arts, who infused the White House with arts and culture between Jackie Kennedy and John F. Kennedy, and then passed under Lyndon Johnson and through the 60s and 70s. Again, Johnson, a president who believed in the arts. He was instrumental in the creation of the NEH and the NEA, which leads us to right now, when the Trump administration has cut funding to the arts, and yet there are these efforts to name the Kennedy Center after the Trumps. But according to law, you can't do that. There was a regulation passed in 1983 that said you couldn't rename anything within the Kennedy Center.
Ooh.
So this would take an act of law, and it's unlikely that that would happen
You don't
because
think
they
this would go to
wouldn't.
the Supreme Court?
They would. Well, yeah. Well, which is funny because John Roberts, of course, Chief Justice, is the head of the board of the Smithsonian, but not the Kennedy Center. So they can't go before any other board members to try to do this.
So, and theoretically, the reason why it couldn't get through Congress is because you need 60 votes in the Senate.
Correct.
But there's a Washington Post piece about this, and there's a wonderful end to the piece, which is if he can't do it with the board, which he controls, and he can't do it with Congress, which he controls, at least a majority, if not 60 votes in the Senate, the most obvious thing was at the end, he's just going to rename it.
He's just going to do it.
He's just going to, it's like Gulf of America. It'll be called the Trump No Arts Center starting whenever he decides to do it. I mean, that is going to happen, don't you think?
And it just lights another, I don't know, it just lights another fire that he'll have to contend with. You wonder if this is another effort to distract from the Epstein files. We keep hearing things surface like this that seem so outlandish, and it distracts people for a moment. We're talking about it right now. Maria Shriver, of course, Kennedy family member, has weighed in on this. Excuse me. As has John F. Kennedy's grandson, Caroline's son. So there will
He's
be
a
a
little
lot
out
of
there, by the way, I should say. Even though he seems, that's Schlossberg, who has made some videos that are a
He's a
little
social media
questionable.
star.
Yeah, sort of. In any case, so you don't think he's just going to rename this thing? I think he's going to do it like any day. Seriously, any day, like today.
So what happens then? I mean, there have been a lot of people who have refused to perform at the Kennedy Center. But what happens going forward? Do people go anyway? Or?
Well, there continues to be this debate that we've had, and I think Amy Sherald weighed into this most recently with the Smithsonian. When there are restrictions and you try to bring your art forward, in her case, there's an exhibition that's about to open at the Smithsonian, but they want to remove one of her paintings, or at least add a video component to one of her paintings that renders the Statue of Liberty as a trans person.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so she has said, that's it. If you want to have a video that shows a debate about this painting, or, I mean, that's what the Smithsonian is saying, she's saying they didn't want the painting at all, then I want out, I don't want to have anything to do with this. And we've talked about this with the Kennedy Center. Either you take the stage knowing that you're not wanted there if you're somebody in the LGBTQ community or a drag performer or something else, but still take the stage because you can espouse your views at that center in front of an audience, or you backtrack. I think we're seeing a lot of people who are still taking the stage and a lot of audience patrons who are still going.
Kamau Bell was with us a few months
talking
ago.
about
He
that.
he did it. He
Yeah.
performed because he made I'm against that, but he made a very compelling argument. It's far better to be there and use that as a platform to call out what we're all troubled about. And it makes a fairly persuasive argument. I mean, it does. Don't you think it makes a fairly persuasive argument?
I don't know what to think about it. I mean, I think you can argue both sides, I guess.
Well, my point of view is if you have an administration that is backtracking and trying to yank everything that you're trying to do in the arts, and you still have the opportunity to take the stage, then do it. Why back down? Why cede the control of that territory or
and then
that
you can
stage?
get up and do your performance, and then maybe people will walk out, or
Right.
you can see J.D. Vance get booed when he walks in to take his seat. I suppose there are some upsides.
Well, you'll have your detractors, but at least you're creating a conversation,
Yeah.
and that's a big measure of the arts, is to create a conversation.
Okay, they're probably going to change the name of the Kennedy Library, too, to the Trump Presidential Library over there in Dorchester. I love this exhibit. I didn't even know about this.
About
They're
the
preparing for
pets,
you.
yeah.
Tell them what they've got there on the presidential front there, Jared Bowen.
Yeah, so in this moment, I think this is really brilliant programming. In this moment where we're just so fraught over politics, and politics have just become so ugly and so acidic, we have an exhibition at the JFK Presidential Library and Museum titled Presidential Pets. And it goes back and it tells a story all the way back to George Washington, who loved his horse, who had his own fox hunting dogs running around Mount Vernon, all the way up to, well, actually not President Trump, because he's one of just a couple of presidents who haven't had a pet. Make it that way, you
Is
will.
there anybody else? We were discussing this morning at our staff meeting.
Truman was gifted a dog that he didn't really like, and so that kind of, it went to the farm.
Oh.
And then...
Bess didn't like it either?
I guess
Mrs.
not.
Truman?
And then President Polk, also did not have pets. So very few, because...
What do you know about President Polk?
Nothing.
That he didn't have a pet.
That's exactly. That's the extent of my knowledge, too.
You know what I didn't know? That President Lincoln's dog was named Fido.
Right, I learned this there too.
Yeah,
Is that where the
Fido
use
is
of
like
Fido
the
came
classic name for a dog, and I wondered if
Yeah.
it was after Lincoln. I don't know.
Well, of course we know through Bo, the Obama's dog,
Yep.
and Socks, the Clintons' cat, and Millie, the Bush's dog,
Yes.
who had her own book because Barbara Bush used it for literacy efforts, that the presidential pets have always been used to connect with their constituency and for diplomatic diplomacy, etc. And so I think Lincoln reinforces this, not that it was necessarily intentional, but people became aware of the dog, and that most likely is why the name
Yeah.
Fido became popular, because of his dog. He
That's
also had
pretty
a horse he
interesting.
loved.
He did?
He did?
What was that name?
I can't remember the horse's
Well,
name.
he traveled on horseback.
He did travel on horseback.
Yeah.
In fact, we just
Well,
had
he
at
was
least...
he was around a long
So
time
can I ask
ago.
a stupid Fido is dead, as are all these animals. So
Yeah.
what are they, taxidermied, or what are they?
It's mostly images of pets. However, there is a taxidermied badger, and the badger was a pet
Teddy
of...
Roosevelt.
Exactly.
Oh, was it? Because he had
It was,
everything.
yeah.
He had like snakes and lizards.
Yeah.
I was a guest, but he had everything.
And when he was a kid, he had a blue macaw parrot, and he was
Wow.
afraid of the parrot. This is Teddy Roosevelt, who lore has it he was off fighting grizzlies in Yellowstone,
Yeah.
but as a kid was afraid of this little macaw parrot. But and badgers aren't very nice either. We know the honey badger memes that went out years ago when they're nasty creatures, but he had 2 of those in the White House.
We just found
In
out
the
something
White House.
more about Polk. Is this thanks to you, Jamie? Can we post this? Whoever gave it, Zoe. Polk had a sick mullet. Can we put that picture
Yeah.
up of Polk's mullet? Does anybody in the audience know one fact about President Polk?
No, don't know.
Other than no pets and a mullet?
Long
Not
time
one
ago.
person.
Nothing.
Good.
Yeah,
I'm
he
feeling
didn't
a
make
little
his-
better. Oh, he's
didn't
the
make his-
youngest president to die outside those who've been assassinated. That's a hell of a distinction, actually.
You know what
It's
they
quite
said is the
beautiful.
best thing, though? The
Youngest.
macaroni, Caroline Kennedy's.
Yeah.
I saw you always saw pictures of her when she was a little girl on that little pony, and macaroni was the pony, and now they've got all this elaborate saddle and bridle that came from Morocco.
Yeah, he was gifted from King Hassan, and as you say, King Hassan II, and as you say, it came with all this paraphernalia, so you see that. You also see Teddy Roosevelt's saddle, riding crop. You see Jackie Kennedy's riding jacket. We know that she loved horses. That was big for her in Newport.
Yes.
So in addition to the photographs, in addition to the stories, you also can come up close with some of these artifacts of history, as we said, also the animals, and also the sound. So there's a hilarious audio play of Lyndon Johnson with his dog.
Holding the beagle by its ears?
No, that's a different story.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry,
that was
okay.
pretty bad. That hurt
Yeah.
him a lot, obviously.
Well, he said that didn't hurt him. That's not true,
I don't
right?
But the
believe
dog
it.
was howling, at least.
Oh,
that's
was?
That's the
So
description
what's
I
the
saw.
sound? What's the
The
sound?
sound is him with another hound, and as the hound is howling, so is LBJ. It's
Oh, that's
hilarious.
pretty good.
They're howling
That is
together.
great.
I kind of want Doris Kearns Goodwin's take on that, too, now.
That's till January 4th of
Yeah.
next year at the Kennedy Library.
Okay, so tell us about the Stephen Petronio company that made their last performance just up at Jacob's Pillow in Western Mass.
Well, this is a company that, he's a longtime choreographer and dancer, and at the end of his career decided to dance out, basically, at Jacob's Pillow. He is somebody who has been at the forefront of dance and addresses issues like the AIDS crisis by having a whole bunch of people come together, fall together as a community. You needed people to come together during the AIDS crisis in that way. He's somebody who's always been inventive using chairs and pillows. Ironic that or coincidental, it's at Jacob's Pillow. But this I think, speaks to the importance of Jacob's Pillow as a performing arts festival in this country. So it's underway now through almost the end of August 24th. And I think that this is an especially great summer to do this because they just recently reopened the Doris Duke Theater, which you might remember burned down a number of years ago. And it took them many years to pull it back together. And basically what they have created out there is one of the most extraordinary theaters anywhere in the world because they were able to build it from the ground up. They were able to talk to dancers from all over the world and understand what they need. They talked to the indigenous communities out in Western Massachusetts. How should a building built on what was once indigenous land look, and how should it be integrated with the community? If you've been out to Jacob's Pillow, you know that there are both performances inside theaters, but also open-air stages. So it's breathtaking to be around twilight and looking and watching dance with the Berkshire Mountains in the backdrop. It's absolutely gorgeous. But this new building, as I said, it's state-of-the-art. This will incorporate robotics, technology, video, AI, anything dancers want to do now that will move the forum forward with technology they can do in this building. It's about double or triple the size of what was there before. It costs $30 million. And then I haven't seen it in person yet, but the renderings, it's gorgeous. It's all rounded. This came from the conversations with the indigenous community, including the artist Jeffrey Gibson, who has a show at Mass MoCA right now. But they've also built it in such a way that even within the theater, they can have outdoor performances because they can have dancers on the roof performing.
Oh,
so
on
I
the
want
roof.
I want to get back to Mass MoCA in a second. How many, this is courtesy of Zoe, thank you. How many times has Polk's body been buried?
Well, I just read it.
Well, don't answer
Okay.
that. How many times has his body been buried?
I'm going to go with 2.
3. Okay, we'll continue to bring you Polk updates.
Why was that?
Can
Is there a hole in the casket?
It's
or
like
what
Dead
happened?
Outlaw, the show I was just talking about.
Yeah.
Zoe gave us incomplete information.
Yeah.
You know, this is not for our NEPM listeners because obviously they know. If you're into the arts, there is no better week than in Western Massachusetts. Mass MoCA, which, as I've said before, beyond being one of the great museums ever, is physically one of the greatest structures, I think, ever. Totally re-energized that community.
North Adams, yeah.
Tons of other museums out there. I mean, it's just, it is.
Tanglewood.
And Tanglewood.
is
That's
out
what I was
there.
writing down, by the way. Before
Yeah.
he came on, there was a little spot from Tanglewood on our air saying where music goes for the summer. That's a pretty good line. I like that.
It's where performance goes for the summer. You know, Pamela Anderson is out there right now at the Williamstown Theater Festival. Tony Danza's out there. They're having a whole Tennessee Williams kind of festival within the festival this year, so it's bringing great stars. It's, you walk down the streets of Williamstown, you're bound to encounter anybody. You go over to the Clark Art Institute.
Clark is great,
and they've
too.
just opened a great outdoor exhibition again with the mountain landscape as your
Can't
backdrop,
you buy a
with
ticket to
cows
the
as your backdrop.
to the 3 museums? Can't you do?
Probably that. I'm not familiar with.
I think you can do that. You know what's all? Just one last promotion of Tanglewood. Other than the fact, I mean, in addition to the fact the music is unbelievable, and you're in the shed, and as I've said before, one night when we were there, when we did a show from out there, there's rain coming down on the top of the shed, and you can hear the rain with the live music. They've got everything. I'm just looking. August 2nd, in addition to fabulous music, a panel, a spotlight series with Yo-Yo Ma and Heather Cox Richardson.
Oh,
I
my
mean,
goodness.
They do. It's spectacular.
You know what else is out there that way too? Is the Norman Rockwell Museum.
Yeah.
And I went there once, and it's just, you know, all the pictures of you got the police officers sitting at the little spa with the kid next door. You get all those great. I mean, he's such an Americana guy, and it's fantastic. But the other thing about Tanglewood, I think, I mean, it's a bit of a drive from Boston. But if you don't want to stay overnight, you can do it, and you can go
I've
up.
done it, yeah.
You can go up there with your whole family if it's a nice day with the kids, and you can be outside the shed with your picnic blanket and your picnic stuff, and you know, if presuming it's not raining, obviously, but you would know that in the morning, and hear the Boston Symphony, or hear James Taylor, or hear somebody else with the kids, no hassle.
Or the Pops, your favorite Paula
Yeah.
Plum yesterday when I talked to her, when I extended your
great.
greetings
Oh,
on
you
the show,
did
she
great.
mentioned that she's going to be doing, again, Keith Lockhart's 30th anniversary out in
they're
Tanglewood, where
doing
she was
several.
doing the recitation. Yeah.
And you look over the Stockbridge Bowl, and you see all the beautiful
great.
water there, and the Adirondack chairs. It's such a soothing place, I think. And you walk around, and you hear all the violin music playing, right when you're going, you know, the pathways through Tanglewood.
It's beautiful.
It's just.
Jared, under which president was the United States postage stamp introduced?
Oh,
I'm
God.
going to say President Polk.
That would be correct. Okay, so 200 years. You know much more than we thought. Listen to this.
There
We're
you
going
go,
wild
Jared.
I dug
in the
deep
crowd
within
here.
myself.
Okay, so 200 years of American art. Tell us about it.
200 years of American art. This is on view at the Peabody Essex Museum. This is something that happens every once in a while, which I absolutely love. When a major museum, in this case, it's the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, needs to close because they're undergoing a major renovation, they don't just tuck all the paintings away. They often will send things out on view on a tour. So right now, without going to Philadelphia, you have the chance to see the major works in the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts collection on view at the Peabody Essex Museum. This is through September 21st. And these are things, by the way, that the Academy never loans. It's had in its collection for centuries in some cases, and we're talking about the work of Gilbert Stuart and Winslow Homer, Edward Hopper, Georgia O'Keeffe. But what the Peabody Essex Museum has done here is try to tell the story of American painting, which I think is really fascinating. So you see, apropos of the conversation we started out, how artists are engendering conversations. To your left, you find a painting painting by Alice Neal, largely known for her portraits, but in this case, it's of a woman during the Great Depression era, and she's seated in the middle of a bunch of mostly well-dressed men, some women, and the story is that she is somebody who was impoverished, and you can see the looks on their faces. It's almost of disgust. They do not want to deal with the poverty literally in the room with them, in their midst. So it's her commentary on America at that time. Across from that is another painting by Benjamin West, and it's called Penn's Treaty with the Indians, and this is at a point when the Penn family was rather, or the West family was rather scandalous, and it was rewriting history that no, the land deals with the indigenous people. That was totally on the up and up, and this was all about ceremony and gifts. Of course, that wasn't the way that it took place. And so we see how artists have shaped that. You walk further in the galleries and you see one of Gilbert Stuart's iconic portraits of George Washington, of course, the dollar bill. We see that same visage. But across from that is Barclay Hendricks painting a fellow painter, and he's just so cool, this black man and his afro and his V-neck sweater, and it's just sunglasses. It's the epitome of cool. And so we get this great sense of America, but also just really beautiful paintings. I think one of the most staggering is by Winslow Homer, and it's of a fox running through the snow, and it's Winslow Homer really looking at the cycle of life, because you see this crow above him, and we know foxes are tough creatures, they're predators, but at this point it looks scared. It's buried in the snow. You can see that it's probably having trouble running. The crow is swooping down, and then interestingly, Homer he signs the painting by having his signature descend into the snow, just as you see the fox at an angle descending into the snow. But again, you would never have the chance to see this because it never travels, and it's in Pennsylvania.
Wow, and we've said this a million times. That's another great museum, the Peabody Essex Museum.
With great cookies.
And just one more thing, I think we're such a pressing time to at least a lot of us in the country. Up at the Norman Rockwell Archives, he did those 4 freedoms paintings, freedom of speech, worship, freedom from want, freedom from fear. I mean, they're really inspiring, particularly at this particular juncture when or not everybody, but a lot of people are having nervous breakdowns. Okay, so...
No, one more. Under which president was West Point created? Under which president?
I say President Polk.
No, it was actually Thomas Jefferson. Now, obviously you don't know your presidential
he loves
history.
To do this. He loves to do this. He always wants to do quizzes for me because he knows I won't know the answers. And he can revel in it.
I got news for you. I didn't know the answer.
Which president's wife had a pet raccoon?
President Polk. Now,
President Coolidge.
President Coolidge, exactly.
What was her name?
Mrs. Coolidge. Now, Jared.
Was she the out of wedlock one, or who had the baby out of wedlock? Wasn't it Coolidge?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay,
somebody
fine.
did.
You're doing the debate is not the debate. It's the forum
tonight. Who had the baby out of wedlock? Do you know?
This is great. Tell us about it. Where
Grover
it is.
Cleveland? Was it Grover Cleveland?
Okay, Marjorie, enough. Let's go. Let's get to the forum
Somebody
here.
did.
Mayoral
It was a scandal.
Forum on Arts and Culture is happening tonight at the Strand Theater, 6 o'clock. You could have registered. That registration has ended, but they will still take walk-up. So again, it's 6 o'clock tonight at the Strand Theater in Dorchester, free event. You'll find Mayor Michelle Wu, Josh Kraft, Domingos de Rosa, the candidates for mayor, talking about their arts platforms. This is a huge moment when there's a huge cuts to arts funding in this country, and city organizations and artists all throughout the city are seeing their funding go away. They're seeing content changed because they may be in the DEI thread. So what do the 3 mayoral candidates who will appear on the stage tonight, what do they have to say about their arts platform, funding, et cetera, going forward? And I'll be moderating.
Do you know what you're doing yet or not?
Yeah.
You do?
I do.
You're well prepared?
I'm very well prepared.
You have those little stupid blue note cards of yours or what? You do, don't you?
Marjorie, do I even have to address him?
No, you
do.
don't.
You know why?
Just don't.
He does have a
you know
blue
what?
note. You have blue note cards?
Hey, look at me. I got a blue.
Is that a note card?
Oh, by the way.
This is Jared's idea.
Why do you have blue paper on
so
these
I
desks?
won't lose the
because
script.
Of me.
That's right.
Exactly.
Listen
That's
to
right.
Gail from Brookline. Finally, something worth listening to. Jared.
There you go, Jared.
What?
We love
Jared.
What is she talking about?
I would tell you about the illegitimate presents, but there's too many of them. Okay, we will say goodbye now to those listening on NAPM. Thank you so much for tuning in. The Fabulous 413 start at 3 this afternoon. Right after the news, we're going to be joined by the United Way of Massachusetts Bay's Marty Martinez and Naturalist Sam Montgomery. Actually, Julia Kime is next. Sorry.
It's not over yet. More smart conversation about community issues up ahead with Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio, right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Mass General Brigham. Their leading heart and vascular specialists are committed to providing breakthrough care to patients with cutting-edge research and innovative treatments. Learn more at massgeneralbrigham.org/heart. From fossils entombed in tar to cells frozen in hope, explore the arc of extinction from prehistory to the present and what it means for our future. Catch A New Human Footprint tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Braude, head on Hour 2 of BPR Live from the Boston Public Library. National security expert Juliet Kayyem joins us to discuss the latest on Russia's huge earthquake and the tsunami risks, including California, where Juliet is, plus huge FEMA grants to build even more alligator Alcatrazes.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then we'll talk with Marty Martinez, the new president and CEO of United Way of Massachusetts Bay. He'll join us to talk about the challenges for nonprofit organizations right now and the need to fundamentally change and adapt to Trump's world while still trying to provide vital services. All that plus our Two More Things segment. That's next. BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Federal investigators are examining what led to a deadly mid-air collision in the Washington, D.C. area the night of January 29th. That's when a military helicopter collided with a passenger jet on approach to Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. NPR's Joe Hernandez reports.
It's been 6 months since an American Airlines regional jet and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter collided near the nation's capital, killing all 67 people on board both aircraft. It was the worst U.S. aviation accident since 2001. As part of its investigation, the National Transportation Safety Board is holding a 3-day public hearing to shed more light on the circumstances of the crash. The meeting's agenda includes panels on the crowded airspace near Washington, D.C., and the training and procedures followed by air traffic controllers there. The NTSB will also review some of the helicopter's data systems, including altimeters, which investigators say may have malfunctioned before the crash. The board's full investigative report is expected to be completed by early next year. Joe Hernandez, NPR News.
The United Kingdom is now the second G7 nation after France to signal its intention to recognize the state of Palestine. NPR's Aya Batrawi reports on the diplomatic measures underway to pressure Israel to end the war in Gaza, where starvation among the Palestinian people is rampant.
The Prime Minister Keir Starmer conditioned the recognition. He said the UK would do this at the UN General Assembly in September, joining more than 100 countries that have already recognized Palestine. But he says the UK could hold back if Israel takes real steps to end what he called appalling conditions in Gaza, ends the war there, and revives efforts towards Israel and a Palestinian state existing side by side.
NPR's Aya Batrawi reporting. The U.S. Commerce Department says the economy rebounded in the second quarter after a slowdown in the first few months of the year. NPR's Scott Horsley has more on the latest numbers.
The U.S. economy grew at an annual rate of 3% in April, May, and June, a turnaround from the first 3 months of the year when the economy had contracted. Much of the improvement reflects a drop in imports as President Trump's worldwide tariffs took effect. Imports surged earlier in the year as businesses and consumers raced to stockpile foreign goods before the tariffs kicked in. That depressed the GDP figure for the first quarter, while making the second quarter figure look somewhat rosier. Consumer spending also grew during the spring, while business and residential investment were down. Averaging the first 2 quarters, the U.S. economy grew at a pace of about 1.25% during the first half of the year. That's slower growth than the 2 previous years. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The Fed's expected to keep its key interest rate where it is, at least until it meets again in September. Fed Chair Jerome Powell has been in President Trump's crosshairs for months for not lowering rates. It's NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The gunman who fatally shot 4 people in a New York City Midtown office building on Monday may have been targeting the headquarters of the National Football League. In a 3-page note left at the scene, the shooter, who took his own life with a gunshot to the chest, reportedly referenced the neurodegenerative disease, the chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, pleading in his notes, "Study my brain, please, I'm sorry." According to some reports, the gunman, 27-year-old Shane Devon Tamora, specifically mentioned Boston University's research on CTE in his note. And now the school's CTE Center says they're ready to assist in determining if Tamora did in fact suffer from CTE. The shooting was the deadliest in New York City in the last 25 years. Immigrant advocates and local leaders gathered outside the JFK Federal Building in Boston yesterday to rally in defense of temporary protected status recipients. The vigil comes months after the Trump administration announced it was revoking TPS for Nepal, Nicaragua, and Honduras, and as a federal lawsuit challenging that decision moves forward. Kevin Brown of the 32BJ SEIU Workers Union says thousands of its members who have TPS could lose their jobs.
They're just regular working people at this point in this country. And to take that away, saying they no longer can stay here after decades, it's just wrong. And we're going to stand up for these folks as working people and as basically as people who are seeking the American dream.
Temporary protected status allows migrants from designated countries to live and work legally in the U.S., but does not provide a direct path to citizenship. You're listening to GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses from retailers to tradespeople. Progressive covers a variety of business needs with a range of coverages. More at progressivecommercial.com.
He's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio, live from the Boston Public Library. Thank you. And streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Hello again, Jim.
Hey, Marjorie. We're joined now on Zoom by national security expert Juliette Kayyem, I think from California. I'm not sure. I think so.
Yeah.
Thank you. She's former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under Barack Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security Program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, CNN's senior national security analyst. And I just learned from Zoe, she is the great-great-great-granddaughter of James Polk, so which is really incredible. You won't get the joke, Juliette, but play along with me. Juliette, it's great to see you.
I don't think she is the great-great-granddaughter, but...
welcome, or hello from Los Angeles, California, where the waves are pretty small.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I think we got that alert late last night, and fear in California and Hawaii, all over the place. So what is happened with this tsunami? I mean, how are things?
It's early to assess anything, but I actually think that what occurred over the last, 12 hours, 14 hours was an appropriate response to one of the largest earthquakes ever monitored, obviously. And so you had the tsunami watches, because you would just expect tsunamis in Japan, and that got all the way up to warnings for Hawaii, and you saw the massive evacuation and pictures of it. We didn't know what to expect in California. They were advisories. Advisories is not, basically advisories is between warning and watch. It means get away from the water, which is essentially what you should do. And part of it, I think, was just no one knew what to expect. And I think there's another piece to this that is, I've been thinking about the last 12 hours, which is, if you live in Louisiana, you know about hurricanes. If you live in New England, you know about blizzards. You sort of have a muscle memory. No one has a muscle memory for tsunamis. And so part of what you were seeing was reminding people the tsunami, the danger is not judged whether you have a 100-foot wave, which is what everyone thinks from movies. It is the speed that the waves are coming in. They could just wipe you away. So we'll get more information today, but that's basically what the response looked like. I have a lot of friends in emergency management here, so I've been doing stuff for CNN overnight. But it ended up, it wasn't that it was a bust. It just ended up being that the warnings were appropriate. And they are now back to advisory until everyone makes sure everything is okay.
You know, Juliet, I was about to ask you about preparedness, and then I remembered in The Devil Never Sleeps, your most recent book, you wrote, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Fukushima. Didn't you talk about a piece of Japan that was prepared and a piece of Japan that wasn't prepared? Can you remind people about that?
I'm so glad you asked, because I do know a lot about tsunamis just from the book. I mean, there's two pieces I'll bring people up to speed on, and why we're constantly talking about alert systems now, especially obviously after the Texas floods and the lack of an alert system protecting those kids in the camp. I'll start with actually 2004. Remember the tsunami that killed over 200,000 people in the Indian Ocean? When you go back to see who died, right? And you would think, people like you and me would think, if you were near the water, you died, and if you were away from the water, you didn't die. And it actually turns out that the people who survived that tsunami were people who had the muscle memory of previous tsunamis, either because they were related through word of mouth. So one of the reasons why so many European tourists in Thailand got killed was, they see the water recede and they think, oh, interesting. But if you know what water receding means, it means a wave is capturing that water and going to come back onto shore. Those people ran. So you sort of know, like, okay, it actually helps to know something about tsunamis. Fukushima, a decade later, everyone looks at Fukushima and says, oh, that's a natural disaster. No, it's not a natural disaster. The tsunami came, it wiped out Fukushima and radiological leak. There's a facility, a nuclear facility 30 miles away. It had more structural damage from that earthquake. More water came rushing in, but because they had trained for the potential for tsunamis, this is my technical way of saying they shut the nuclear facility down. I think it's more complicated than that. And they were able to protect that facility. So these things can be learned. And I think that's what we saw Hawaii do, at least. Hawaii basically was, for me, I don't get my anxiousness level up very much. When I saw when I heard the size of the earthquake, and then, because I'm a loser, I'm looking at the seismic activity, the wave activity, I was really nervous for Hawaii. So I think that evacuation was appropriate. Once they knew that they weren't going to get hit as bad as they worried, they then went down to a tsunami watch.
Juliet Keim, you said twice people not having the muscle memory for tsunamis. So why not? Are these new? I mean, why don't we have muscle memory?
I mean, we haven't had a major tsunami. I mean, so tsunami is a word that, like, people, it can be often misunderstood, because I think from movies we think like those asteroid movies, where the 100-foot wave comes up. Yeah. So actually, we've had tsunamis. There's been tsunamis in LA even in the last decade. Tsunami simply means it's a wave. I'm getting into geek world here. It's a wave that's generated not by wind, which is the normal waves that surfers and you and I get. It's a wave that's generated by Earth movement. In other words, it is faster, it is longer. So that's all a tsunami means. It has nothing to do with the height. So people were like, oh, it was only 4 feet. It's a different kind of 4 feet. It's fast. These things are fast. There's no give in between them. And so that's why when the first wave comes, you heard all these officials say, we're worried about the second, third, fourth, fifth. There's a terminology known as the seventh wave. There's mythology that the seventh wave is actually the worst. I think we're past that now. And so that's basically the memory factor.
And I have one more quick question about this too.
Ask me more about tsunamis.
Okay.
I love it.
It's the happiest she's ever been,
when you talk about the people evacuating in Hawaii, I always think of, as I'm sitting in traffic coming from Cape Cod on Route 6, the evacuation route. I mean, what a joke is we're going like 3 miles an hour.
Well, where else are you going to go?
Well, exactly. Yeah. But I'm just saying, were there terrible generally speaking, when you see evacuations, everybody is going 3 miles an hour in terrible traffic. Yeah. So I wondered if this was true as well in Hawaii, or whether they had.
That's the pictures we saw. Part of that was, I mean, it is this sort of memory factor, and I think you're going to see Hawaii Emergency Management assess what their recommendations are. My sense, and this is now me relying on weather experts, but just people I was talking to yesterday, was evacuations, for a warning are necessary. You want people very far away from the water, but for the tsunami advisory, that was California, any elevation, I mean, you're not going to get a wave of 100 feet.
Okay.
And so you don't need an evacuation in every case. If there were a tsunami, for example, on the Cape, there's not much elevation in the Cape.
Yeah, I saw people on the roof. They were on the roof. That was wild.
If I were at a hotel, I would have done that. I mean, I don't think, sitting exposed, but, honestly, when you look at the tsunami of 2004, the one I was talking about in the Indian Ocean, and you look at where deaths occurred, it really was a matter of 200, 300 feet. If you could just elevate yourself 300 feet away from the coastline, because none of those waves were that big.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the force of them and the length of them.
Juliet, I have one last question to keep you happy on the same subject. And you may have touched, I couldn't remember Fukushima, so I was Googling it while you were talking, so you may have said this already. What kind of pressure is there on public officials, particularly after Texas, but not just Texas?
Yeah.
This thing broke midnight or something last night. What pressure is there on, for example, California officials to wake people to take extra ultra precautions, even if they're relatively convinced there are not going to be huge consequences?
I think I've been thinking about it a lot. I think the pressure is great now because we have plenty of evidence. We always have evidence that these alert systems work generally, and that any delay is bad. So what I experienced here, at least anecdotally, I didn't go down to the beach, was in LA, was helicopter announcements at 11 at night. I mean, you don't, because we're a coastal community, and so there's restaurants, there's Santa Monica Pier. You've got to get people out. There were live sirens in Hawaii. There were some sirens here in the Los Angeles area, because also remember boating. So people have their boats out. They might be sleeping on their boats, and what you might have seen this online, but what the boats want to do is rush past out to sea, because the tsunami actually gains traction close to the shoreline. So you saw all these boats from Long Beach and stuff moving out past it. And that happens tsunami gives you a little bit of a warning because of the earthquake. So they had a couple hours. But I think you're going to start to see in sophisticated emergency management agencies like LA, California, a real sort of forward-leaning, just give people information. There are risks to it, obviously, because there will be a narrative after this that, it was a false alarm. It was not a false alarm. Tsunami waves were hitting. It was just not your 100-foot wave that everyone worries the most about.
We're talking to Juliet Kayyem. She is zooming in from Los Angeles.
So, Juliet Kayyem, President Trump has tried a bunch of different ways to get away from the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. The most incredible thing he said yesterday, he talked about before about having a rift with Epstein and threw him out of Mar-a-Lago, said he was a creep and never come back. I stupidly assumed it was because he discovered that Jeffrey Epstein was accused of sex trafficking and having sex with, they're talking about up to 1,000 underage girls at this point. Now he's admitted that he was not upset about that. He was upset that Jeffrey Epstein hired people, teenage girls that were working at his spa. He didn't like him stealing his employees, one of whom ultimately was sex trafficked and took her own life. But in any case, that's a long way around getting to my question, which is one of the ways that he's sought to separate himself or get people to talk about something else is through Tulsi Gabbard. She's the Director of Intelligence, announcing that they're going to open up an investigation into the possible treasonous conduct of President Barack Obama involving claims about the Russians interfering with the 2016 election. What do you think?
I mean, this is all distraction. He's trying to distract. I think he went after Rosie O'Donnell in a moment of 3 a.m. desperation. I think part of it is this is clearly on his mind. So as you were just saying, his admissions yesterday as he starts to essentially admit that Trump knew of these young girls that were working for him and was upset with Epstein that Epstein was taking them. I mean, think how weird that is. He's the head of Mar-a-Lago. Why does he know that the 16-year-old girl? Well, one
stolen.
You know, I mean,
he said he
stolen.
stole her.
I mean, one has to really, like just take a step back and realize what the president of the United States is saying, right? Is that he basically, to me, that was an admission that he knew that Epstein was poaching for purposes that were quite illegal and disgusting. So moving to Tulsi Gabbard is someone I've known a long time. When she became a congresswoman, I mean, she was great. I mean,
she was a Democrat, for those who don't know, from Hawaii.
She was a Democrat. She was a veteran who was one of the first veterans, a little bit like Seth Moulton, who came out of service and said, we need more military leadership or elected leadership because these guys don't know what they're doing and they got us in these horrible wars. And she was part of I think she was a congresswoman before Seth was, or before, Congressman Moulton was, but I think they were part of that generation. She's from Hawaii. She had that vibe. And of course was a Democrat, ran for president. And people ask me like, what happened? I'm just assuming she's been radicalized online, and with a combination of that with being an opportunist, she then, sort of kowtows to Syrian President Assad, and then of course Trump, and she's the head of our intelligence now. Now she's lost. Like, this is just weird because there's no redeeming for her after this. It's not like she is literally using our intelligence agencies to focus on a former president who ironically is protected from any criminal,
that's right.
Because Trump got what he wanted in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, the immunity.
And I think Trump realized that, because I saw him on some responding to it. It's like, I guess we can't get him, but it's not just him. They're after James Clapper. They're after
intelligence guy under Obama.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard's predecessor. So you just have to understand how scary this has got to be for people who aren't protected. We can laugh about it, but these are, it's not like Gabbard says this and it goes away. You're then going to have congressional hearings. You have the MAGA forces going after these people online. Jim Clapper, The Atlantic, wrote a story. Jim Clapper, who's maybe in his 70s, he was a head of the ODNI, a director of national intelligence, not partisan, has worked for Democrats and Republicans. It has gotten so petty that Jim Clapper, in retirement, I mean, he's an elderly gentleman now, he, part of his volunteer services now is he adopts service dogs and dogs that assist in law enforcement. You can adopt them, you pay for their training, whatever.
Wow.
And then they have a graduation, I think at Quantico or somewhere, for the FBI. By executive order, Donald Trump denied Jim Clapper the ability to go see his dog's graduation. This is not a lie. The Atlantic reported this.
You're kidding.
This is how petty this retribution is. He couldn't even go to his literally the dog that he supported to help other people, right? The dog is not working for Jim Clapper. So anyway, this is how petty it gets. It's also scary in the intelligence communities. It's funny, it's not funny. 6 months in, people will say, well, to me, like, oh, do you know someone at here? And, because I know a lot of people who aren't political, whatever. I'm starting to not know people. And I don't mean that in a, like, I'm plugged in. I mean, like, I've spent a lot of time in government, but also a lot of time in public policy. And people are leaving because they don't want to spend their time servicing Tulsi Gabbard's distraction campaign, as she wanted to show Trump that she was behind him 1,000%. I don't think this goes anywhere.
I know you don't intend it this way, both of you. Calling it a distraction campaign in this regard, when the President of the United States and Tulsi Gabbard are accusing a former president of treason, which is punishable by death, is, I think we could all agree, a little bit worse than just the distraction.
Yeah.
Let's hear about 15 seconds of Gabbard lying in support of Trump's position about Obama. Here's Tulsi Gabbard the other day.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President
that's enough
Trump
of that.
win.
The reason I even play that is not just for people to hear Gabbard lying, is the most troubling part of this whole, well, it's hard to say. A troubling part of this, in addition to the lying and putting Obama and his family at greater risk than they currently are. Yeah. Do you know who was the chair of the Senate and Foreign Affairs Committee when they investigated this and concluded the exact opposite of what Gabbard and Trump are saying? Who was it?
Ted Cruz. I'm sorry,
no,
Marco Rubio.
Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State for Donald Trump, chaired a committee that reached a 180-degree different conclusion.
The Mueller report.
And as he said,
and I will say, I will say, though, that it is this conspiracy, whatever, however crazy she is, it is not getting the traction.
I agree.
That, there's one thing I want to say about this on the theory of what do we do in this world, right, where people are just using their government positions to lie. And I've become, radicalized is the wrong word, but I've become much more like the rules have changed and we need to change, we being those who want to support democracy's change. In this exchange that you just quoted earlier, she makes a claim that was pushed by Russian assets that Hillary Clinton was on tranquilizers for years after years. And I don't know in their personal capacity why Hillary Clinton and Obama wouldn't sue at this stage. I am at this stage now. You cannot use your government platform to lie about, in Hillary Clinton's case, she is both of them, they're private citizens. And I say this only because the Macrons, the heads of France, there's a MAGA.
Candace Owens.
Yes. What's her name? Candace Owens.
Podcaster.
She has a lot of support in claiming that Macron's wife, Bridget, is a man and has been doing this for like a year. And the Macrons have sued her and for mental distress. Good. And I'm like, good. And I don't know why Democrats have to, or why we think that, we have to play by some rules that we don't go after. The new team doesn't feel that way. The Trump team doesn't feel that way. And I hope that Hillary Clinton or Obama sues.
Well, can I respond to that?
Hold on.
We have tomorrow. We have Mark Leibowitz tomorrow, who actually works at The Atlantic now, former staff writer for the New York Times Magazine. He's on because he wrote a piece basically saying, where is Obama? Obama responds, which he rarely does, to this treason thing in the most mild-mannered.
Unbelievable.
It was sort of like, Donald Trump, bumped into me and he shouldn't have done it. He accused you of treason, the only crime defined in the Constitution, and Obama's response was...
And the first sentence of his response, was something like, I don't generally get involved. Like he's like apologizing. Exactly. I don't know why the first sentence word wasn't enough with an exclamation point. The president is crazy. The president. I don't know. I read Mark's piece and I agree. I don't know what strategy Obama thinks is working here. But whatever it is, it's not what he's doing. Because obviously the Democrats are clearly looking for new leadership. It's not Obama, but it's not Biden. And we only have two choices. And so Obama has to come out because he's not tied to the Biden administration and all of the issues there, and get a little bit more forceful. I literally, she would be my favorite person in the world if Hillary Clinton just said, you cannot go, for libel, for slander, whatever, in your Tulsi Gabbard is not protected by the Supreme Court ruling. We start going after people who do not want slander coming and lies coming from our government, begin to hold them accountable in ways that they will feel it, which is they're not going to feel it if with some little remark by Obama that his feelings are slightly hurt. Make it hurt.
Two things. One of the tragedies in the United States of America and all around the world, really, is that people get away with saying whatever they want, making up lies, and nothing happens. And I want to reiterate what I've said a million times, so why not say it again, Marjorie? If you made a mistake like this or slander someone like this in a newspaper or on television or in other more older media, you would get your rear end sued in about 2 seconds, and you would probably lose, and you would probably have to pay a lot of money. We have decided in the United States to let Facebook and TikTok and all these, and a lot of these podcasters just lie with no repercussions. That's number one. And number two, because we're getting a lot of texts about this today, what all these reports, including the Marco Rubio investigation, including the Mueller investigation, found that the Trump campaign did not collude with Russia. In other words, they didn't help Russia. The Trump campaign did not do that. But there was, and all these reports have shown the same thing. There was a concerted effort help Donald Trump in the election with all these false bots and all these false lies and all these false things that went on there. So that's the situation. Despite what the texters are saying.
Don't have us say what we're not saying, right? So critics, will say there's no proof. Of course, we're willing to admit it, but what we do know is the Trump administration was aware.
They were aware
that the Russians were supporting Trump. And that had an influence, especially in the social media space.
Can I say one last thing about this as well? I agree with you conceptually, both of you. We all know that the bar for defaming or slandering a public official, whatever that case is, New York Times versus Sullivan, I think,
it's higher.
Is very, very high.
Yeah,
one
I
last
know,
thing,
but I'll just say
I don't want to debate the law.
Distress. There's the Macrons are doing it for mental distress. They're not doing libel. She is saying that that having people say that she's a man and somehow. So I'm just saying, try any legal theory, but don't let this stuff sit anymore.
I got it.
And we should also point out in that thing about suing people, if you make a mistake, that's one thing. You can get sued for making a mistake. But if you make that mistake with as a term is malice of forethought,
malice, right.
You know it's a lie, and you go ahead and say it anyway, then you are in big trouble. And that's an important distinction, because I don't think Tulsi Gabbard, or maybe she does, maybe she's so deluded she does believe this, but it's certainly, she would have to have a good due diligence argument for why she believes something that's been totally disproven.
Okay, last thing. We had Lee Pelton here, who just a couple of months ago was awarded the President's Award by Harvard. He's now head of the Boston Foundation, talking about the reports in the New York Times that Harvard was in negotiations with the Trump administration, had offered to pay $500 million. As we all know, Columbia paid $200 million to settle a lawsuit, settle the dispute with the Trump administration, and hopefully free up all their research funding. I'm going to almost quote Lee, for whom I have colossal respect, because he's a real fighter. He said, and he used this word, he said, in some of these situations, capitulation may be necessary to protect things like billions of dollars in research funds. And intellectually, I have to say, I totally understand that. But at the same time, not directed at him, but at these institutions, it's appalling to me that any of these institutions settle anything with Donald Trump, because it just emboldens the authoritarian predilections. Where are you as a Harvard-affiliated person? What do you think about this ongoing negotiation?
So I never believed that Harvard's great oratory and President Garber's great statements were the end of it. I thought, there's going to be a value statement, but there's going to be negotiation. And I think it depends on what the devil is in the details.
Of course.
So I was never a purist in the sense, give them everything they want or don't give them anything. And I will say, I did look at the Columbia Agreement. I urge people to look at it. It's less toxic, and because in some ways the administration kind of wants out of these as well. I will say...
Well, there is an outside monitor, which is not insignificant, but go ahead.
No, but I'll say two things on this. The first is, people will say, well, why would they pay $200 million to get back $500 million? This is about future.
Of course.
So this is about the future. And in other words, in terms of protecting, Harvard is just buying time until hopefully an administration My understanding is, at least as a professor, is we are the international students that Harvard has been doing is on many fronts. They might concede on one front, but I'm teaching in person a class that by all accounts is going to be as full as it was last year. And my class was 55-45 domestic international %.
Well, that's good news, and I hope the news doesn't get worse.
But the bad news is all your information is now with the federal government as an employee of Harvard University, Juliet. So watch out.
I do hope the university, all universities, because this is a relatively new phenomenon of universities being completely dependent on federal funding. This is not the long history of universities. I do hope universities will begin to think long-term strategically about their dependency on the federal government. There's not good replacements for it, but it will also mean we got to get smarter about how we're spending our money and the kind of retractions that are necessary.
Maybe we should get smarter about how we pick our leaders instead.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the idea that Mass General was finding cures to prolong people's lives with cancer, and that they're looking at Alzheimer's and aging.
And the government had an interest in that, right?
That's right. And that's where the money was going.
What the president of Harvard said. That's what I absolutely love. Was just like, these aren't gifts. Like, the federal government has an interest in us doing this, right? It's not a gift. It is, the federal government has decided curing cancer is a good thing. When it decides that it's not a good thing, that's where we are.
And you know what the other thing is, just quickly on that, you hear the pharmaceutical industry fight back. They say, oh, well, we can't. The reason we have to spend these high prices is because of research and development. Well, most of the research is not being done by the pharmaceutical industries. It's being done by the people that work at places like Mass General and Dana-Farber. So you can imagine if they take away all that government money, what the excuse, I mean, you think you're paying a lot now for your pharmaceuticals. I would say you ain't seen nothing yet.
Juliet, safe trip. It's great to see you. Thanks for zooming in from LA. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Juliet.
Where the waves are. See you later.
Yeah. We've been speaking with national security expert Juliet Kynan, former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Barack Obama, the faculty chair on Homeland Security program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. That's why the government has all our information right now, because she's at the Harvard Kennedy School. CNN's national security expert as well. Up next, Marty Martinez, CEO and President of the United Way of Massachusetts Bay. He joins us to talk about the challenges facing community-based services for the needy and the poor because of all these funding cutbacks. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Hundreds of civil servants have been fired from the Justice Department this year. The departures have spread fear across the workforce and transformed the department.
From an administration that states they want efficiency and no waste, how is firing the sole auditor for a large part of Texas efficient?
I'm Elsa Chang. That story on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, helping families overcome the college planning stress. Committed to providing trusted guidance with calculators, step-by-step videos, and more. Details at mefa.org. And GM Roth Design Remodeling. Dreams delivered. With custom kitchens, bathrooms, and additions. Serving New England for over 39 years. Learn more at gmroth.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browder. We're live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Earlier this year, Marty Martinez, former Boston's chief of health and human services during COVID-19, took over as president and CEO of the United Way of Massachusetts, one of the state's largest nonprofits. Really good timing there for Marty. Marty, it's good to see you. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Glad you're here.
Well, explain, Marty, and thank you for coming in, why Jim made a crack about being really good timing.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, but what, for people who don't know, what is United Way? I got the what's the correct title?
Massachusetts Bay.
Massachusetts Bay. United Way of Massachusetts Bay. What do you do?
Yeah, again, thanks for having me
Pleasure.
here. The United Way is an organization that mobilizes resources. We mobilize communities to come together to support issues that are impacting the community and improve the conditions of our neighbors and the residents that live here together. We do that by mobilizing, funding, by investing in probably almost 200 different nonprofits in Eastern Mass. We work on policy, we invest in resources, and we really are partnering with government, corporations, individuals to actually make investments that improve the lives of our neighbors. So we're an organization that's 90 years old, and we've been around for a very long time. And we do a lot, and especially in moments like this, our work is really important.
How many days after Trump's inauguration did you take the job? It was like 10 days or something? It was, wasn't it?
It felt like it, yeah.
So I want an honest answer to this. I'm sure you'll be honest, the whole thing. Had you known that he would be as disastrous for the part of the world that you care about, would you have taken this job?
100%.
Why?
No question.
Why?
Because for me, I think it's more important now than ever that we lean into the work that we're trying to do, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's why.
Do you get federal money, the United Way itself? I know you're recipients, a lot of them do. Do you get federal money?
We had gotten federal money.
How much did you lose?
We ended up losing about $200,000. We had an AmeriCorps program that had been rescinded. Why? Because the priorities of the program were to help people learn English in the North Shore. And so it no longer met the priorities of the government. So they took it away and then eventually reinstated it, but the program ended.
And of the 200, how many did you say you worked with? How many nonprofits? 200?
Over 200 different ones. Yeah.
What percentage of those would you say are at least partially dependent upon federal funding?
Yeah, probably close to 40% of the organizations we work with get significant federal funding.
Can you give us a couple examples of organizations that are not either largely or greatly dependent on federal money, what they do and how they're likely to be affected if they're not rescued?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we think of the kinds of organizations, I can think of community development corporations, right? Organizations that are mobilizing, organizing their neighbors, they're building and sustaining affordable housing, they're running food pantries, they're organizing in neighborhoods around gentrification and other issues that keep people in homes. They get a lot of federal money. A lot of the support to build housing and to tackle supportive housing comes from the federal government. And they're right now trying to figure out how will they sustain that in the face of those challenges. We also support a lot of organizations like anti-poverty agencies that are doing food security, that are creating access to healthcare and other benefits. The federal funding that comes in, as you all know, around food, around healthcare, around sort of anti-poverty strategies to get people a leg up. Many of them are facing cuts in resources and trying to figure out what those services are going to look like after all this.
So what do you hear from people on the front lines? Do they tell you that their clients are aware of this, or that are they hearing stories from their clients about fear? Or what is on the ground?
Yeah, they're absolutely hearing stories from folks that are afraid. Folks that are afraid for not only the services might not be there, whether it's a voucher around rent, whether it is access to early childhood, whether it's access to food supports. But also, I don't want to lose track of this, the immigration enforcement has created huge fear amongst residents and amongst neighbors. And so folks may say, we had all these folks enrolled in programs, but now people are afraid to come to those programs. We have community events where we're mobilizing people around financial security and education programs and workforce. And now because of all the immigration enforcement, it's making people take steps backwards to not access services. They're hearing it all the time, and they're trying to figure out how to keep their neighborhood safe at the same time.
You know, there was, I'm sorry, maybe Jamie or Zoe will remember this. There was an organization, Shirley Leung wrote about it in the Globe, was talking about, if they changed some of their policies and principles, they could receive some money they would otherwise lose. I know it's hard to generalize, but of the 200 organizations plus your organization, is there any discussion about, well, as painful as it'll be, sort of like the Harvard discussion we were having with Juliette Kayyem a minute ago, maybe we have to change some of our priorities so that we don't run afoul of the Trumpian view of the universe, because even though it'll be painful, we'll get money. Is anybody having that discussion or no?
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, I think most organizations getting federal funding are having that. Just last week, we brought together 20 of the largest nonprofits in Boston to talk about, what they're facing. And one of the leaders said, and I'll generalize it, but one of the leaders said, in this moment, I'm not going to have the work change. The equity, the diversity, the work that we do isn't going to change in who we serve. but how I talk about it on the website, how I talk about it externally has to change.
How do you feel about that? You're in an odd
tough.
position because obviously your goal is to support them.
Yep.
But how do you, again, I hate to keep citing Harvard, but since this is the highest profile nonprofit in in the world probably, or at least in our region, 3 days ago, they changed the name of the office that dealt with women, LGBTQ people, and people of color. Of course, saying the old thing where nothing has changed except the name.
Right.
How do people on the ground feel about these, let's call them compromises politely?
I think the challenge is that if the compromise starts to compromise your values and does start to change the work, then you've compromised too far. Right. So if it really is about words, that's one thing. But if it really is, then now we no longer do services for this population, or now we can no longer make something accessible because of an immigration status, or we no longer can do that, then you do feel the pressure point of you. Not only did you change words, but you changed your values. And I think it not only impacts the folks getting care, but it also affects the workforce. People come in and devote their time, effort, and energy to this work. They want to know they're doing it based on the right values. And so it is a tough call, but you have to make sure the services get maintained.
We're talking to Marty Martinez, who is the relatively new head of the United Way of Massachusetts Bay.
We talk a lot to Michael Curry, who is in charge statewide of the community health centers, and is concerned obviously about Medicaid cuts. How much are you involved in healthcare?
Yeah, we as an organization fund a variety of organizations that are working with, trying to address poverty. And one of the pieces around addressing poverty is really creating access to healthcare.
Okay.
Right? And so we're very involved.
So I wonder what happens if a person loses their Medicaid coverage. Yeah. Suppose they have some issue, I don't know, they need help. Yeah. There's an obligation in emergency rooms, right, to treat anybody who comes in. So is that what we're going to end up telling people? Go to the emergency room because you can't get your care through the community health center anymore?
No question. Less access to health care, less access to Medicaid means emergency rooms, community health centers, and others will have a lot more need on their services. We will see the kinds of challenges in the healthcare system that will impact people that don't have Medicaid, because everything else is going to be consumed by trying to serve those who now didn't have insurance. We made huge progress in Massachusetts around health insurance.
Universal health care.
Right? But that Medicaid is going to make a huge challenge on and really put those systems kind of
So how can a community health center even stay in business if half the people that come there are not going to be reimbursed by Medicaid?
Why don't you ask Michael that question?
Well, he's not here at the moment.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
Right.
I don't know how they survive.
I think part of the way they're going to have to survive is to have organizations partner with. And so I say that real directly because that's what we at the United Way are trying to do. We're trying to lean in with organizations and figure out what are their needs, how do they think about the resources that are going away, and many of them are, but then how do they think about how do we come out of this and how do we continue to provide the services that are there? So, things that are not exciting but are important are talking about contingency planning and scenario planning, and how do you as a nonprofit think, we were serving this many people with $5 million, and now we have to serve this many people with $2 million, right? And so how do we shrink, but how do we not make services go away? That's the work we have to do. Hospitals and health centers and others are doing that work right now.
Lee Pelton was here yesterday. He's doing a similar thing through the Boston Foundation. I know you're this United Response Fund you're doing. The state is trying to do what it can, but I know Governor Healy, standing right there a couple of weeks ago, was saying we'll do what we can. There's only so much we can do. Do you not worry, in addition to the immediate thing, if I were denied a service by a community nonprofit, my guess is when I was denied the service, I would probably not say, boy, am I angry at Donald Trump. I'm angry at you. Right. Why are you not? I don't want to hear a lecture about, well, I don't have as much federal money as I had before. Don't all of these a lot of these organizations worry about the altering of their relationship with their communities that is going to be really hard to fix, even if there is a post-Trump America. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, because the cornerstone of creating access to services is building trust with the community. And you've done a lot of work, and all these organizations have built so much trust in community, and they've done so much legwork to do that, that once that trust starts to erode, it is very hard to earn
So
back.
what are they doing? What are you doing to try to not have it totally disappear?
So right now what we're really doing is partnering with agencies to help them think about how do they plan for to be honest with you, the the unexpected and what they can't plan for? How do they think about sustaining services with less resources? How do they think about doing things differently? How do they think about collaborating and partnering in a way that they haven't? It shouldn't be the case, but it is what we need to do to ensure the services don't go
Is there going to
away.
be consolidation of some of these? We were talking to our boss the other day, was here, was actually back in our studio, Susan Goldberg, who runs GBH, about how a lot of these small NPR stations, for example, have to think about, some economies of scale kind of thing. Are some of these nonprofits going to join forces?
They're gonna have to, right? We've already had some of those conversations in smaller communities. There might be 3 agencies doing something similar. They are going to have to think about that. And we as the United Way are going to think, how do we mobilize resources? How do we mobilize support from corporate, government, and others to do that? But we have to do it in a way that doesn't ultimately impact the community as much as it already is going to be impacted.
I'm going to ask a Marjorie question, if I may. Marjorie talks a lot correctly about the brilliance of what the Republicans did to decimate things that matter. Medicaid being a good example, is made sure that most of it doesn't go into effect until people vote in the midterms.
After 2026.
In November. So I know this is hard to generalize, but do you think the average person who is dependent upon the nonprofits with whom you work gets what's going on and how serious the threat is, or they're too busy in their lives right now to deal with it?
Not yet, to be fair. I think most residents and community folks, they know that there's changes coming. They see everything else that we see, but the devil's in the details as we continue to talk about. And what does that mean, right? It doesn't mean you automatically lose Medicaid. It means there's going to be all these bumps and barriers and restrictions intended for you to lose Medicaid. And there's a lot of support that's going to need to go in that. So you're absolutely right. We need to organize most folks. We need to make sure people understand the impact, and nonprofits are trying to plan for it as we speak.
I hate to be Debbie Downer here in the last minute or so we have left, but Maura Healey, the governor, has said several times when she's been with us that people that expect Massachusetts is going to be able to step up to the plate and fill the financial gap left by the federal government are dreaming, because the massive amount of money that comes from we don't have that kind of money.
Right.
And that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's not only true, but we will need to prioritize what we can support and what we can do, right? So for us, creating this new fund allows us to be able to meet some of that support, but philanthropy, government will not be able to fix the gap. But what we do need to do is, we've made a lot of progress here in Massachusetts on these issues. We've got to make sure that we still build and continue to progress that forward, so we don't take all these steps back as we try to manage all these pieces.
Where do you get your money from, other than the $200,000 that you used to get from the feds?
We get our money from a lot of individuals and a lot of folks who give through their corporation and where they work, employee giving. We are a $40 million organization, and we invest about 85% of that goes back out into the community each year. So we're raising money and investing in each year to do that, and we're going to keep doing that, especially in this moment. It's really important.
Yeah, because some companies get those little, I remember when I got the Herald, Boston Herald, every year we get the thing saying, do you want to donate your money to this service or that service or this service, which is kind of nice to get to decide.
Yep.
But how many companies actually do that? Is it significant numbers, or do you need a lot more?
Yeah, a lot less companies do that now than they used to be fair, right? So a lot of the donations and folks getting involved now are individuals who maybe started that way, but now they've been donating to United Way for 25 years, or they're brand new doing it. But not a lot of employee giving is happening, but a lot of partnerships, corporations, businesses, and individuals that we're organizing each and every day.
So do people look up UnitedWay.com, or what do they do?
What's the website?
Donate.
UnitedWayMassBay.org is how you could find us.
UnitedWayMassBay.org.
Right? And that's how you find us. And right when you come up, you're going to see something about the United Response Fund. It's a way for people to get involved now and to organize. And that's what we're trying to do, and making sure that the nonprofits need this support. It's really vital we lean in today, even when there's so much unknown still to come.
Well, good luck.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a tough time for the nonprofit world, but thank you very much for coming in.
By the way, if some of those nonprofits themselves want to come in, be in touch with us. We'd love to talk to them directly about what's happening.
Because I think Jim made a great point, or asked a great question about that. Yeah, you're sitting across from one of your people that's in one of these nonprofits, and they're going to have to listen to a patient scream at them or yell at them or be so upset that they can't get care, and it's not the provider's fault.
We'd love to share some of those direct impact
We'd love
stories.
that.
We'll
be in touch. We would, because those are very, very effective.
Marty, good to see you. Good luck with the new job. Thanks. We really appreciate your time.
We've been speaking with Marty Martinez, President and CEO of United Way of Massachusetts Bay. Thanks again, Marty, for coming in. Coming up after this quick break, just enough time for our Two More Things segment. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Trusted, local news.
Two Market Basket executives are speaking out about their terminations and the ongoing turmoil in the grocery chain's leadership ranks.
GBH News.
This summer, the aquarium has returned 36 turtles to the ocean, and it's currently got 6 more that it's caring for.
Here for what matters to you.
In recent weeks, the Trump administration has moved to terminate parole for Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans.
GBH 89.7. Online at gbhnews.org.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And the Museum of Science, presenting the new exhibit, Perception Playground, which explores how your brain shapes your understanding of reality. Tickets at MOS.org. And Creative Playthings, committed to supporting kids' outdoor active play this summer. Open for the Massachusetts sales tax holiday, August 9th and 10th. Showroom locations and swing set catalog available at creativeplaythings.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browder. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. What did you say yesterday? This is our so-called Two More Things, such as it is?
Such
is that
as
what you
it
said?
is. Such as it is.
It's really positive.
Yeah,
Well, this
right.
is our so-called
It
Two
is.
More Things, and you are going to start with one.
Okay, well, I've been out of the music scene probably for about 30 years.
You
know what
have?
I mean, yes. And that's why I was so excited to read Renee Graham, maybe longer than that. Renee Graham's great column today. She talks about Fleetwood Mac.
Mm-hmm.
They were around like in the mid-'70s and early '80s,
Bill
right?
Clinton.
Yeah, they were around for a long time, but their big albums came out then. It is now the hottest band in America, thanks to
It
Gen
is?
Z, reports Renee Graham. Yes. Apparently, they're all over social media now, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham, and they talk about this 1997 performance of Silver Springs. We're going to play a segment of that in a minute. Of Fleetwood Mac. This was at a concert where the singer Stevie Nicks, who was lovers with Lindsey Buckingham, their relationship ends, and they talk about how in this performance you can see her looking at him with very evil eyes, her former lover, while she sings about the end of their relationship. Here it is.
You can hear her voice that while she's singing, she's looking at him with evil eyes.
She's ticked off.
She's angry.
Well, apparently Gen Z has, according to Renee Graham, has discovered this whole raw melodrama, and now the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which inducted Fleetwood Mac back in 1998, called this song the performance that has launched 1,000 TikToks. And one more thing, apparently a lot of young women today are making videos of themselves showing them staring at their boyfriends at the same way, or their husbands, schooling them on the song's history.
Can I tell you something? Not only did it launch 1,000 TikToks, it launched 1,000 TikToks.
Did I say TikTok again?
I believe you did.
Sorry.
There's nothing wrong with a TikTok. We both like TikToks, and I think it did both.
I have a little trouble with pronunciation in general.
I think it was a beautiful point.
Okay.
So, if
Doesn't
I
mean
may...
you can't be on the radio just because you can't talk.
Well, you sort of are on the radio.
I am, that's right.
So the Legislature's Committee on Municipalities and something else yesterday was looking at a bill to give cities and towns the power, should they choose, to impose rent control. Not statewide, local option, and also with a cap, and also would ban no-fault evictions. People remember back in 1994, this is incredible, rent control was repealed in the state. What's significant about that vote is the 3 cities that had rent control, what did they do?
They voted for it.
And what did the 348 cities and towns that didn't have rent control do?
They voted against it.
Right, so they had no interest in it except they voted against it. Well, there's a similar situation 30 years later. The mayor of Boston, was she elected by the people in Boston?
Yes, she was.
The city council, were they elected by the people in Boston?
Yes, they
were. All but 2 members of the city council want a rent control option here. The legislature, now I'm quoting Marjorie, who read this Globe story a few months ago millions of times, 90% of the legislators are not renters. One representative, Paulino of Methuen, has so many properties he doesn't know how many he owns. Senator Feingold, $42 million in real estate. So essentially, they've decided they know better than the people of Boston. And by the way, if you're the mayor or the city council, you're entitled to bad judgment. And if people think you made a mistake, they can vote you out. But the notion that these legislators are standing in the way of rent relief for tenants when none of them are tenants is unbelievable. The good news is the Speaker of the House comes to the rescue. Here's Ron Mariano.
Session ends Thursday. There's no rent control piece in front of me.
That is beautiful leadership.
God.
So essentially we have a bunch of control freaks on Beacon Hill who don't want local democracy to play out. You may hate rent control.
Jim.
That doesn't matter. All that matters is the people of Boston, 3-1, want it, as do their leaders. They should get it.
I would say it's not about local democracy. It's about people that are massive landlords
I
who not
mentioned
want
it.
to
It's your
lose any
point. I
money.
know that.
It's about money, like so many other things are. Okay, coming up after this, the
Was I
1
done?
o'clock news. Are you done?
I guess I was.
Okay, you got to be done because Simon Montgomery, our naturalist,
I'm done.
is coming up next, and she and Zoe are going to have a little back and forth about a puffin colony in Maine. That's next on Boston Public Radio.
If you have an old vehicle you no longer need, turn it into the programs you depend on through our vehicle donation program. We'll take care of everything. All you need is a clear title. Learn more at gbh.org/vehicle donation.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Newport Mansions, presenting the 20th Annual Newport Mansions Wine and Food Festival, September 19th to the 21st at Rosecliff. Seminars, tastings, and a dinner experience with Chef Marcus Samuelson. Tickets at newportmansions.org. And Rockland Trust Bank, helping foster healthy relationships with money by providing education and resources to the community, one neighborhood at a time. Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. Member FDIC.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 3 of BPR, live from the VPL. Naturalist Simon Montgomery joins us for the afternoon zoo. What does it take to repopulate a puffin colony in Maine? After more than 100 years, she has the answer, as does our colleague Zoe. Plus, a lizard named Goose on Loose and a pair of coyotes with prime real estate right in Central Park in Manhattan.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then we'll close the show combining two of Jim's favorite subjects and things to do: incessantly complaining and going to restaurants. We'll open the lines and get your thoughts on all the petty, annoying things that drive you up a wall about going out to eat. Are you still working on that? Or how about being forced to tip on a screen right in front of the server? It's all on the table, so to speak, next in the third hour of BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library. Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The Federal Reserve is expected to leave U.S. interest rates unchanged when the Fed wraps up its latest policy meeting today. NPR's Scott Horsley says President Trump has been pressing Fed Chair Jerome Powell for months to cut rates.
Investors are almost certain the Federal Reserve will leave its benchmark interest rate unchanged this afternoon. Inflation is still somewhat higher than the Fed would like, and there was concern that President Trump's tariffs could push prices higher still. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate's just 4.1%, creating little pressure on the Fed to cut interest rates. That hasn't stopped Trump from jawboning the central bank, however. He wants lower rates to goose the economy and cut the government's own borrowing cost on its $36 trillion debt. While most members of the Fed's rate-setting committee are in a wait-and-see mode for now, investors think a rate cut is likely at the next Fed meeting in September. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Senate Democrats are demanding the release of the government's records on its investigation of late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein through an obscure federal law. NPR's Claudia Grisales reports it's the latest political maneuver raising the pressure on Republicans.
The effort by Senate Democrats comes the day after President Trump said Epstein, quote, stole young women who worked at his Mar-a-Lago spa.
When I heard about it, I told them, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people.
Now, Senate Homeland Security Committee Democrats are invoking the so-called 5-member letter law to force the Justice Department to turn over the Epstein records. The rarely used legal provision allows minority parties to gain access to records but can face legal challenges by the majority. House Republicans are now working to force Epstein's convicted associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, to testify under a subpoena. Claudia Rizales, NPR News.
A magnitude 8.8 earthquake hit Russia's far eastern Kamchatka Peninsula. The powerful quake triggered now expired tsunami warnings that included Hawaii, Alaska, and the West Coast. NPR's Charles Maines has more from Moscow.
Russian scientists say even for a region known for volcanoes and seismic activity, the quake on Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula registered as the region's largest in 70 years. Online videos showed a sustained earthquake lasting some 3 minutes, sending residents running onto the streets. Waves reaching as high as 13 feet quickly swamped seaport areas in Kamchatka and Russia's northern Kuril Islands, unmooring ships and even some buildings. In nearby coastal Japan, evacuation orders were issued for tens of thousands of people. U.S. authorities also issued a tsunami warning for Alaska and the Pacific coast of the U.S., with coastal residents in Hawaii told to get to high ground before the waves approach. Charles Maines, NPR News, Moscow.
From Washington, this is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Massachusetts gambling regulators hit DraftKings with the largest fine imposed on a sports betting company yet, finding that the Boston-based company, over the course of nearly a year, violated the state law that prohibits the use of credit card funds for wagering. State House News Service reports that the $450,000 fine appears to be the largest for a sports betting violation since legal betting started in the Commonwealth in 2023. A statement by the gaming regulators say the commission is further seriously troubled by the level of internal miscommunication at DraftKings. Officials at DraftKings, meanwhile, say that it had made corrections to the company's betting systems, but then later admitted that they were ineffective. In addition to the fine, the Gaming Commission also ordered DraftKings to provide proof that it returned every cent of the credit card funds to all 218 customers. Those funds come to over $83,000. Renter-paid broker fees will soon be a thing of the past in Massachusetts as a new law takes effect this Friday. The change comes from the state's new budget plan, which was signed by Governor Maura Healey on the 4th of July. The law is designed to lower costs for renters and will instead put the burden of fees on the person who hired the broker. Critics of the law say it may cause landlords to raise rents or force prospective tenants to hire a broker themselves. Red Sox Twins just getting ready to wrap up their series in Minnesota. Then it's back to Fenway for the Sox, who play the Astros this weekend. A scorcher, 91 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from Made In, makers of cookware found in restaurants around the world, offering a carbon steel non-stick griddle for home use, designed for use indoors or outdoors on a grill or over an open flame. More at madeincookware.com.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. Thank you. And streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Hello again, Jim.
Hey, Marjorie. We're joined on Zoom by naturalist and author Sy Montgomery. Her latest book is What the Chicken Knows, a new appreciation of the world's most familiar bird. For the first part of this edition of the Afternoon Zoo, we're also joined by our senior producer, Zoe Matthews. There she is in the flesh right there, who joined Sy on a recent expedition to a puffin colony in Maine. Zoe, Sy, great to have you both. Hello to you, too.
Hello. Hey, Sy.
Okay, so before we get to Sy, I want to know about you, our senior producer here, Ms. Zoe. How'd you get involved in this puffin colony deal with Sy Montgomery?
When Sy calls, you kind of answer. I don't really there's nothing special about it. Sy invites me on adventures sometimes, and I like to go with it.
And what was this adventure?
It was a cruise, a puffin cruise up in New Harbor, Maine, out of, I think, Hardy Boat Tours was the name of the company, if I'm recalling. And it's run by the Audubon. They have people who come with you and describe all the sea life, and we went and saw a bunch of puffins. There we all are.
There they are.
That's me, Sy, our friend Heidi, and I forget Beth and Mark, I believe. 2 of Sy's friends also came with us.
Hey, Sy, could you, before you tell us how good a sidekick Zoe was, which is what we really want to know, could you tell us a little bit of the history of what happened on this island with this guy? Is it Steve Kress, the guy's name? Tell us a little bit of the history to bring us to the present, if you would.
Yes, Steve Kress is one of my heroes.
back when he was a graduate student at Cornell's famous School of Ornithology. He noticed that there used to be all these wonderful puffins on the islands off of Maine, and they had been almost completely eradicated by, of all things, the ladies' hat trade. There were other problems as well. But puffins had not been on Eastern Egg Rock, which we visited, for 100 years, when Steve decided he was going to do something about it. So he got these baby puffins, who are adorably called pufflings, from Canada, and he released them once they had grown up on Eastern Egg Rock. Well, would they come back? Well, puffins live on the ocean without touching land for years, sometimes 2, 3, 4 years before they will come back, one hopes, to their natal place. But he also realized that what was going to let them know this was a good place to be? How were they going to remember it? And that's how he came up with this great idea that is now being used to restore seabirds all over the world. He created these decoys. So when the puffins flew over, it was like when you see a big line spilling out the bakery door and you think, I want those donuts. So there were all of these fake puffins. He even made them call out in the voices of puffins. There were mirrors that gave the illusion of movement. And eventually he attracted all these puffins back, not just to Eastern Egg, which we visited, but to all these other islands in Maine. And that technique has transferred to other seabirds all over the world.
And that I think, Zoe, is the point. I mean, we've discussed with Cy in the past, one of the reasons why people are so into this beyond this restoration project is they're about the cutest bird that ever lived, which shouldn't be the standard, but is. But it basically is a story not just about restoration of the puffin community, but about the ability to restore any animal community once it's been destroyed, right?
Exactly. His techniques have been replicated for seabirds all over the world, I believe. And one thing that Cy and I were talking about after our trip was just how inspiring it was, especially earlier on the show, we're talking about all the EPA rollbacks.
Exactly.
There is this one guy in his 20s. He's an ornithologist by trade, but he's completely untested. And he sees this need. I think I was reading in the Audubon that he is a camp counselor or an educator at a camp in his late 20s up in Maine. And he finds a book about how there used to be puffins in Maine. And that just started him on this now 50-year recolonization effort, and that's been wildly successful. And I just find that so inspiring,
it's
especially
a great
right
story.
now.
And tell people how cute they are.
They're very
cute. Do we have a picture? Do we have a little puffin picture?
We have pictures in the distance.
We have pictures in the there they are.
Yeah,
Okay. Now that's not a particularly cute picture there. They look better from the front.
Oh, that's a great photograph.
Less cute, but very...
Are they Derek Jacksons, or are they?
Those
these
are Derek Jacksons.
Former columnist for the Globe, who's deeply involved in this restoration effort.
I think
with the Union of Concerned Scientists, I'm not sure.
The babies might be cuter.
That's a beautiful photograph.
Well, it's a beautiful photograph, but you wouldn't call it cute, Jim.
One thing I really liked
They
was...
have the cute little feet patting.
They are
around.
cute.
I love
Go
it.
ahead.
Very cute. When they would take off or land in the ocean, their feet would jut out like little landing gear, and it was just, it was really adorable.
And they slide along the top of the water.
and they just settle in.
Hey, Cy, I should know this. Is Crest still alive?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know him?
We've corresponded, and I have a book that he wrote for children signed by him, and I've written about him. But I've never met him face to face, but he's one of my heroes.
It's a fabulous story.
So, Zoe, we want to know about Cy in action. I mean, you were able to spy on Cy in the wild, as it were. Do you have anything?
I just want to say, Spy on Cy might make a great web series.
Don't you think? Don't you think? What do you think? I mean, do you have any revelations about the real Cy in action?
The real Cy is the same Cy that we're looking at right now, I will say.
Exactly right.
She is probably one of the more generous people with her time, I would say, unless you're in the company of another animal. Then size there, she's completely present there, and
Fabulous.
I love it. Yeah.
Zoe, it's good to see you.
Yeah, of
Zoe
course.
Matthews, our colleague, senior producer, who went on the expedition with Cy. You know, Cy, speaking of remarkable, Marjorie and I spent the morning watching a video. I mean, this is almost, again, in the age of AI, you worry that it's not real. It was in the New York Times, of an elephant, pointing at, you tell us. An elephant and an apple is the name of the story, essentially. Tell us what we saw and why we should care about it.
Well, it's absolutely wonderful. This elephant is part of an experiment, and the experimenter wants to know, like, can the elephant use gestures to tell me what it wants? Well, the experimenter brings out a bin of like 5 apples. Well, the elephant first, just like a kid whose hand is up in the classroom to get the teacher to call on him, his trunk comes up, he waves it around like, hey, 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 I'm trying to get your attention.
Incredible.
And then he takes his trunk and he points exactly with, they have that little grasping finger at the end of their trunk. And he points with that finger, with the trunk outstretched to the bin of apples. You would have to be a complete idiot not to know what that animal is telling you. And what I think is hilarious, it's just great watching it, that they can even get around how dumb we humans are. They're looking at just gestural languages. Elephants, of course, when they're speaking with each other, they have perfectly good voices. In fact, they can speak in infrasound. They can speak essentially in a code we can't hear, in these voices that travel over vast distances below the threshold of human hearing. They can pick it up through their feet and their ears. So their voices are perfectly fine. They still use body language with each other like you and I do. But when we are so dumb we can't understand what they're saying, they go to plan B and just have to essentially draw us a picture.
Yeah, it was really amazing. The elephant. If you see the video, how'd you see the video? What was it?
By the way, that's what I was going to say. If you go to a story, it's called "How Elephants Say They Like Them Apples" in the New York Times. It's embedded in the story, the video.
So you see this huge elephant and this person standing right in front of the elephant. So they seem to be unafraid that the elephant was going to do anything hostile.
Huge horns or whatever those things are. Not horns, tusks. Oops, sorry.
And the elephant's unraveling its trunk and then unravels it right over the apples. And I thought, dogs don't. You know how if you throw a dog a ball and the dog can't find the ball and you point to the ball, and now I don't know, maybe you know smarter dogs than I do, but in my experience, the dog, pointing at the ball does no good. The dog doesn't get it. But that elephant could do that.
And dogs, actually, some dogs are very good at following a pointed finger.
They are.
But many dogs are. And interestingly, octopuses will also do that. They understand a pointed finger. But a lot of other critters don't get it. But they don't get it because they have their own gestural language or auditory language or language of scent that we can't figure out. What I love about these elephants is that they could do a workaround and show us exactly what they need.
So how do you know an octopus knows how to follow a finger? What does the octopus do that shows that?
Oh, this is really interesting. There was a woman named Nancy King who wrote a book about keeping captive cephalopods, and she had several who she loved and knew very well. And sometimes she would release a live crab for her octopus Ollie. And sometimes the crab would hide somewhere, and Ollie's looking everywhere and feeling everywhere and doesn't know where it is. Then Nancy would take her finger and point to where it was.
Oh, my God.
The octopus's eyes swivel onto her finger and then go right there. The crab.
By the way, I'm sure Nancy's book is great. You may have heard there's another author, naturalist, who wrote a great book about octopuses.
Yes.
It's called Soul of an Octopus.
Yes.
You should check it out sometime. So it won a lot of awards. It was a real big deal.
I still want to introduce you to some suckers, you guys.
We would love that, by the way. We're talking to Cy Montgomery. Cy, I am really into interspecies relationships. It's one of the reasons I love you, for a million reasons, is because you are engaged in tons of interspecies relationships. This image, though, this story of this possum and an ocelot in Peru, I think it was, palling around with each other is so incredibly beautiful. Can you share it with people?
Yeah, I loved this because normally you would think an ocelot would eat a possum.
Exactly.
The first time they saw the footage, which was from a trail cam, they thought, in fact, that the ocelot was following the animal to eat it. But then they saw the two of them walking side by side, and they described it like two old friends seen walking along together home from a bar. And this was exactly it. They were just hanging out together. Then they found, I think, 3 other almost identical videos of ocelots and possums hanging out together in completely other areas of South America. So, what is going on? They tried to test this. They wondered, what does each get out of this relationship? And haven't we all asked that questions about our friends, like, what?
Yeah, we have.
Excuse me. Thank you. Go ahead. We'll discuss that at 2 o'clock. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, they wondered if maybe the possum was hoping to roll in some of the chemical scent of the ocelot to mask its scent from bigger predators. They gave it a chance to roll in puma scent, and it wasn't even very interested. It may be a completely other thing. I mean, it may be their personalities that they enjoyed. But there's lots of examples of partnerships like this between 2 species in the world that are now being chronicled. For so long, all of nature was portrayed as red in tooth and claw, and everybody's trying to eat everybody else. But there's a lot of mutualism. There's a lot of partnerships going on. I'm sorry I keep going back to octopuses, but octopuses have paired up with fish, and the fish will know where there's a delicious item in a coral crevice that the bony fish can't get to. So it will come and get the octopus. It actually has like a special handstand, then it shows the octopus, look, I have an idea. And the octopus will follow the fish. The fish then points to the spot in the coral where the octopus should, put its gelatinous type arms in, and out comes a treat for everybody. And similar things happen with birds called honey guides and African badgers called rattels. And the same things happen with crows and coyotes. And similar things happen with insects and with fish and with eels. And even in our own bodies, there's a lot of mutualism going on. Most of the cells that are on, in, and around your body are not human cells. They're somebody else. And some things are so mutualistic, like lichen, that's really not one thing. It's 2 different classes of organism that have fused to form lichen, the stuff that you see on rocks. So there's a lot more helping and partnerships going on than that we even know about.
We're talking to Cy Montgomery. Cy, there's also a wonderful story. I think this must be in the New York Times about a couple of coyotes.
Smithsonian, actually.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet, right? Who are hanging out in Central Park. And I used to spend, when I lived in New York City for 15 years, I spent a lot of time in Central Park. And if I had encountered a coyote, I would have been terrified. And I'm reading the story thinking about being terrified. And then the writer, who has actually seen the coyotes a number of times, gone out of their way, maybe with their partner to find them, whatever it is, they found them, it makes the point that there's no record of either of the coyotes biting a human being in Central Park. And there's scads of examples of dogs, including on leashes, biting people in Central Park. So I wasn't quite sure how I should feel at the end of the story. I'm serious. How should I feel? If I encountered a coyote in Central Park or here in the Common, how should I feel?
Oh, I think you should feel delighted. Don't worry about it. You should see. Did you ever look up how many people bite other people in New York? People? Hundreds.
Not in a couple of weeks, I haven't, no.
And these are bites that get reported because they're bad enough they need medical attention. So, coyotes very seldom bother anybody. They're not dangerous animals. In fact, they are restoring kind of the ecosystem of Central Park.
By doing what? By doing what?
Rats eating, the rats, and they're keeping the goose population in check, and they're cleaning stuff up for us. And this was such a lovely story. The couple that was photographing first Romeo and then when Juliet joined, they were originally meeting Romeo because they were photographing Flacco, the owl.
That's right. That is right. Yeah.
It just died.
Yeah.
Yeah, who died of rodenticide poisoning, ate a rodent that had been poisoned. Which
is that what happened?
Flacco, yeah. which was beautiful, the Eurasian eagle owl who had lived in the zoo, and a vandal just let him go. People were thrilled to be seeing this giant owl flying around, but he was the only owl of his kind and then got poisoned, which was horrible. But anyway, they were trying to photograph the owl, and if you're out owling, you're going to see all kinds of wildlife that you wouldn't see during the day. And although coyotes can be active during the day, like a lot of predators, they are particularly active at night, and that's how they met these guys. He lived there, Romeo lived there for 4 years in the park until his Juliet appeared. And she probably came from the Bronx. She was probably born in the Bronx.
Born in the Bronx.
Well, probably along the railroad tracks, although not riding in the train. And the photographers have seen this pair kill and eat a Canada goose, so they got to see predation, which was really cool. They've seen them figure out how to cross busy streets.
I know, that's a great part.
They will look at the traffic to make sure they're safe. And then on Valentine's Day one year, they saw them mating. So that was perfect. So
wow, on Valentine's Day. That's great. That's
Cy
great.
always perks up when we talk about animals mating. Have you noticed that, by the way?
No, well, it's a great story.
So, Cy, just to be clear, so I don't give bad advice, while you were saying you have nothing to fear, no one is suggesting you try to walk up to a coyote and pet it or have any interaction for it. Just revel in its beauty and move
make
on,
sure
right?
your small dog is not near the coyote or your cat or something like that. I mean, they're not. They are dangerous to small animals, obviously. And a goose is not a small animal either. That's pretty big.
Oh my gosh! Have you ever been attacked by a goose? It is really something.
Yeah. Geese can be a problem. But anyway, I wanted to ask you about this story because it's got the dreaded local angle. This is about up in Webster, in Massachusetts. Somebody had a lizard.
Called Goose, by the way.
Yeah, called Goose. Yeah, that escaped from their house and wound up in Connecticut. I mean, Webster, Mass. is Western.
7 miles away.
Yeah. So, first of all, what is it? This is a pretty big lizard, right?
5 feet.
Yeah.
And
So
he could get to 8 feet.
Oh, jeez.
yeah. So, are these dangerous or
your house too?
Yeah, you don't want to go up and pet them, obviously.
Well, no, he's probably pretty tame, but a lot of animals, they don't like it if you're tall, you're bipedal and they're quadrupedal. So if you reach down, that's what a predator would do. And they tell you, these lizards, you shouldn't just reach down upon them. You should offer, he's probably scared, poor goose. I mean, he's native to Southeast Asia. They're all over Thailand. These are Asian water monitors. And interestingly, monitor lizards, you know who else is a monitor lizard? Is Komodo dragons.
Right, I know that, yes.
Very smart lizards. They're predatory lizards, and they plan stuff. When you're a predator, you have to plan how to stalk and capture and kill your prey. So their smarts are very much like our smarts. And you can tame these lizards. In fact, you can tame Komodo dragons, although, you still want to be really careful. They don't have venom. But they can bite. And
are they carnivores?
Yes, they're all carnivores.
Oh, so they also might like small dogs
like eat your
and cats
face or something.
Or a human foot. I don't know.
Cy, the reason I was interested in talking about the story, besides the dreaded local angle, is whoever owns it, they've never identified the person in Webster.
They can climb trees.
I know that. It's illegal without a permit. And, the first thought I had about a wild animal in a house was meeting fire chief at your illustrator's basement, 150 pounds, a snapper. But fire chief was there to heal. Obviously, you guys had been bringing him back to health and waiting for him to be healthy to release him. How do you feel about these people who get off on owning these wild animals and containing them in their private space in their house? I think it's incredibly cruel and selfish. Am I wrong?
Really hard to give a good home to a monitor lizard in Massachusetts. You are absolutely right. And particularly if it's a wild caught animal, you're taking them out in the wild to live in your house just to please you. That's not very good. But again, we don't know who the guy is.
No, we don't.
Maybe it was somebody else's pet and you can't just let it loose, although He actually jumped out a second-story window, Goose did, to escape, which is a long fall for a lizard.
Or for anybody, for that matter. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true. I wouldn't recommend keeping a large exotic monitor lizard in your house who can grow to 8 feet, and it's very hard to give them what they need. They need like 70% humidity to be comfortable, or else they're gonna shed their skin in a weird way. That guy, there was a picture. Did you notice his skin was shedding a bit?
Yeah.
That's natural, but that looked kind of uncomfortable. I mean, maybe that's one of the reasons he jumped out of the window. If my skin were coming off like that, I'd jump
out the window too. Exactly.
So what'll happen? Will some?
They say it may not survive because of the environment, as I was saying.
But if
it might be too cold, which it doesn't feel like today.
Yeah, but if it does survive, is there like a lizard sanctuary or something that this lizard can go to? What do you do with these lizards?
I'm not sure what they're going to do. In many states, it is legal, believe it or not, to have a water monitor. I was really surprised. But you're right, it's not legal in Massachusetts. There probably are reptile sanctuaries, and the way to catch them, I mean, you'd probably want to catch this guy with a net and put him in a bag and,
send him home, his real home.
Yeah, send him home.
Cy, it's great to see you as always. And Marjorie and I want to consider being on your next expedition, so keep us in mind, okay?
Not the lizard one.
Not the lizard one. Maybe a puffin one or something like that.
Pretty little birds, hummingbirds. You wrote a book about hummingbirds. That was a great book about the hummingbirds too.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that would be a neat expedition, Jim.
I'd love to come and swim with the chief. I was doing that yesterday. And
I won't be doing that.
Nor will I. Thank you. I petted the 150-pound turtle on its head.
Snapping turtle.
That's about as far as I'm going to go.
Snapping turtle.
Hey, Cy, be well. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Cy.
Take care. Cy Montgomery.
We've been speaking with naturalist and author Cy Montgomery. Your latest book is What the Chicken Knows, a new appreciation of the world's most familiar bird. And by the way, if you look up Cy Montgomery's book, she's got a whole slew of them, and they're all terrific birds.
All terrific.
And books, rather. And kids would love them, too. Okay, coming up after this quick break, we're going to open the lines for a BPR, really a Jim Braude favorite, because he's at a different restaurant every night.
Not every
all
night.
The things you hate about going out to eat. The survey you asked, who asked you, are you still working on that? Or the server who comes up to you with the tip and the machine right in front of you, and you have to offer your tip right in front of the server, who may have been a good or may have been an awful server. Restaurant pet peeves. This is off of Karen Baskin column in the Globe. She's got listing a bunch of them, and we're going to list some too. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Braude. You're listening to BPR and 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Hundreds of civil servants have been fired from the Justice Department this year. The departures have spread fear across the workforce and transformed the department.
From an administration that states they want efficiency and no waste, how is firing the sole auditor for a large part of Texas efficient?
I'm Elsa Chang. That story on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, helping families overcome the college planning stress. Committed to providing trusted guidance with calculators, step-by-step videos, and more. Details at mefa.org. And Morningside Music Bridge, returning to Boston. The summer program shines a spotlight on young classical musicians from around the world, with concerts now through August 1st at New England Conservatory. mmb.international.
Welcome back to BPR. Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We're ending the show with a topic I could spend the entire week's worth of shows on. All the little things that annoy you about my favorite activity, going out to eat. Let me be clear before we start this. We are huge advocates, as is the woman who wrote the column, Kara Baskin, for restaurants, particularly local independent restaurants. This is not about them. It's about little things that are, as she calls them, her 8 restaurant pet peeves. We want to know what yours is. She writes in the Globe, it's not just about your meal. Dining out is live theater, she says. It's a production. It always doesn't go to plan, much like this live theater production of BPR, but she writes it always provides for great people watching. So we're opening the lines at 877-301-8970. Your pet peeves about restaurant dining. Kara Baskin calls out a few pretty good ones. Like when your server asks if you're still working on that plate of food. She hates the expression. She said, instead you should say, may I please take your plate? Like when, or what about those new payment devices that pressure you to tip on the spot? You know, they go with a little machine, they turn it around right at the table, right under your nose. The one on her list, we'll go down them in a few minutes, that I am really obsessed with is when you go online and they have no menu.
Oh, yeah.
Because the only thing almost as much fun as eating a great meal as a restaurant is thinking about and strategizing about a great meal at a restaurant. I am totally with her. And of course, menu items that seem to be an initiation into a secret club. Kara Baskin writes things like the Super OG Special Thick Creamy House Bad Boy Sauce, which, as Marjorie said this morning, coincidentally, is what Harry and Heinemann called me when I was young. 877-301-8970.
Jim and Harriet.
Your restaurant.
Like Romeo and Juliet.
Pet peeves. What are your restaurant
American tragedy.
What are your restaurant pet peeves?
Well, the thing about coming over and saying, are you working on that? I hate that because a million years ago when I was a server, the big thing was you waited until everybody in the table was through, whether it was 2 people or 4 people or 6 people to go over, because it makes the person that's finished fast feel weird. It makes everybody else think they have to hurry up. So yeah, don't ask. And the other thing, if you're going out to dinner and you want to have a beer or a cocktail or a glass of wine, when you sit down, get the people their water right away, and then come and ask them if they want something besides water. Don't come and ask them to order their food at the same time they're ordering their drinks, because then your food and your drinks could come at the same time, which is horrible.
They almost always ask for cocktails first, because that's where they
make
the most money.
I know. Well, they should, because that is where they make the most money. But a lot of people don't do that. And I like physical menus. I like to go to a restaurant. I mean,
no QR code kind of thing for you?
The QR code, well, you see half the people got their phones out trying to read the QR code menu when they get it on their phone. And yeah, I like the menu. I like to go back and forth and look at it in a relaxed kind of way, as opposed to having to look at my phone the entire time to figuring out, because you need your phone, obviously, for the QR menu, don't you?
Exactly. Yes, you do. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give you mine since you didn't ask. My additions to what were written by Kara Baskin, and then we'll take your calls. No salt and pepper on the table. Does that not drive you nuts?
Very annoying.
I don't want to have to. I don't ever add salt.
A lot of places don't do that anymore.
I add pepper.
Yep.
No, I know exactly my point. Put it on the table. Don't have to ask for it. You know what? The other thing, which is a real problem, is virtually no restaurant gives you free bread or rolls anymore.
I know, and I love bread.
I know, but you shouldn't have to ask. How do you feel when you have to pay $8 for like 4 pieces of bread?
Well, I don't care. I really like bread, and I don't want to, especially if it's an Italian dinner.
Of course you care. It should be on the table when you get there. When they come to greet
they don't do it
they should put some bread on the damn table.
They don't do it because they said that people don't eat it and it's too expensive. That's what's going on, Jim.
Now, what is Magoni's, by the way? What is Magoni's?
Well, Magoni's is a restaurant that used to be across the river from Fall River, my hometown,
in
Somerset.
Read this first text.
I know. They said you had to bring your own can opener to Magoni's.
No, they hate when you have to bring your own can opener.
Yeah, they don't like that.
I made fun of them. That's not true. You don't have to bring a can opener. They give you a can opener.
Okay.
877. That's a joke,
new restaurant is coming. It hasn't come yet, though. I'm just looking it up to see if it's there yet with the roof deck. That's not there yet. The new Magoni's, the new and improved Magoni's.
Oh, that's really fabulous.
I'll keep you posted on that.
Okay, so what are your pet peeves?
My entire family is devastated about the demise of the shutting down of Magoni's.
She doesn't like when the server says, "I'll ask chef," which gives me hives too.
Yeah.
She doesn't like that, and she doesn't like a lot of things, even though she loves restaurants. I'm with her on virtually everything. You know what the other horrible thing is? It's bad enough when they don't have a menu online, because anybody who goes to a restaurant who doesn't look at the menu to get their excitement quotient up and anticipation is crazy, is missing a huge opportunity. You know what's also horrible? If they do have the online menu, if they don't have the prices next to the online, next to the items.
That's like really disrespectful.
That's
very, very upsetting. That's very, very upsetting.
Okay, thank you.
I'm concerned because now it says it's permanently closed. I hope that doesn't mean that they're not going to have the new and improved Magoni's.
I don't know if you're aware, this is not a segment about Magoni's. Do you know that, or did Jamie not tell you?
Well, I want to keep abreast of what's going on there. As I said, I have a lot of invested
we're going to go there. Christmas party for BPR staff.
Okay.
No, we are. We're giving them Jim and Marjorie can openers for this year.
That and the joke is because you always make this terrible joke about how they open the
You
can
order a
of
Chef Boyardee
tomato
can
sauce,
there, and you open it up
and they
yourself
pour
and
it
put it on a Bunsen burner. By the way, that's not true. It's a fabulous restaurant. Everybody loves it.
It's closed.
Well, when it was
They're
open,
supposed to-
they liked it a lot when it was open. Actually, some people like it more when it's closed, to tell you the truth. That's a whole other story.
Okay.
No, we're not trying
Debbie
to badmouth the restaurant at
from
all.
Gloucester, thank you for calling.
Okay, good. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
I am old enough now that I don't like loud music in a restaurant when I have to yell over it. And the worst is I like going to a concert and I like going out to dinner, but I sure as heck don't want live music while I'm eating. I can't talk to my companions. I've got to listen to the music. I didn't come to the music.
You said live music. You mean loud music, right?
Or live music.
Or live music.
Either loud music or live music. I mean, it's rude to the musicians not to listen to them, but I didn't come to hear them.
You know, Debbie, we had a conversation on the air, I'd say 5 years ago, with Christopher Myers, as in half of Myers and Chang, Joanne Chang and Flower, etc., talking about the sound in restaurants. And I think he's the one that told us there was a story in the New York Times where certain restaurateurs put ceilings in that cause the sound to bounce off so that the sound is actually elevated.
Yeah.
Because there's a school of thought, I'm with you, Debbie, by the way, that a lot of people like the noise because it gives a feeling of activity and excitement at the restaurant. But I'm with you. If you can't hear the person with whom you are dining, it's sort of a turn off. Debbie, thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Tom, is it Sitzema, the guy from the Washington Post?
Sitzema, yeah.
He did a whole
Food
thing for the
critic
Washington Post about going around measuring the decibel
Oh, he
levels.
does that for all restaurants. Yeah,
and,
you're right.
And one of the theories is that a lot of restaurateurs think it makes it seem hipper to have a lot of noise in there.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of people, and it's not just older people, I think a lot of young people, if you have to shout across the table, it's not really much fun to have a nice expensive dinner when you have to scream. Okay. Oh, the latest in Magoni's. Thank you very much. It's undergoing extensive renovations, probably more keynote tables. Oh, no.
No,
Oh,
that was a joke by Jamie.
And it's
We don't
expected
know
to
that.
open in 2025 as Slade's Ferry Grill. So it's 2025. So maybe pretty soon, Jim.
Maybe
we'll
not.
Be able to go
it's true.
there.
No, we are definitely going there. Jane, thank you for your call. 877-301-8970 is the number. You know what also is a pet peeve of
What?
mine? When I'm out to dinner with people and they turn to the server and say, "What's your favorite dish on the menu?"
Oh, I say that a lot.
Well, but to what end?
Because I'm trying to decide between two things.
But why do you care? In fact, you did that. We went out with a couple of friends a few weeks ago. I
Yeah.
just realized you did that in South Boston.
I asked, what do you
First of all,
recommend?
do you know that everybody's tastes are different? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I know that, but I often say which is most popular if I'm trying to decide between the broccolini and some other vegetable, which is more popular. What do people
You didn't
like
ask
more?
which is more popular. You say, which do you prefer?
Well, I was trying to give a little, faith that I had faith in the server to have a certain expertise about one of the best things on the menu, and that's why I do that, Jim. Wow, I didn't know it was so annoying.
It was annoying. I've been talking about it to a lot of people. Jeff in Upton says, drives me nuts when the waiter, waitress, server, we call them, doesn't write down the order. The best thing that can happen is they get it right. More often they come back to clarify the order. I love it when a server is so skillful that they listen and they get it right more often than not. Don't you love that when they memorize the crap?
Well, that's pretty hard. But you know what you wonder sometimes, we talk about memorizing, when they come over to the table and they tell you what was on the specials of the evening, and they give you every one of like 27 ingredients to the particular special.
You don't like
and
that?
they're talking and talking and talking and talking. I don't need to know every single
Amber
sauce.
and Worcester, I hate it when they don't list all the ingredients. Nothing is more terrifying than getting a crunch in a non-crunchy dish. What do you think of that?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, I think you want to have a few ingredients, but you know how they go on. It's lying in a bed of something or other with a drizzle of that and a drizzle of this. I mean, enough already. I don't
It's
need
like a
to know.
turn-on for
I don't
a
need
lot
to
of
know
people.
about every drizzle. Is that true to you? Do I hear about the drizzles?
It might be. When they say lying in a bed of something.
Okay.
I'm there.
Order that right
I'll
away.
Order that one.
Okay.
Okay, we already talked to, did we talk to Jane or we didn't? Maybe we didn't. Jane in the car, did we talk to you or we didn't?
Nope.
We haven't.
Oh,
Hi, Jane. How are you? Sorry to make you wait.
Hi.
Hello. What's up?
Nice. No, that's okay. Nice to speak with you guys.
You too.
I'm big big fan of yours. Marjorie, I think I used to babysit your son, but anyway.
You did?
I won't. I think so. I will not get personal here. I was.
Well, wait a second. Excuse me.
Oh,
You
my
either
goodness.
did or you didn't babysit her son. Don't you
Okay,
think?
I should know you then, shouldn't I?
You worked for the Boston Globe. Anyway, I'll tell you my name if you want.
What's your first name?
Anyway, I
Jane.
won't.
No, it's not Jane. She's under an assumed name.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, what's your real name?
No. That's my first name.
Jeez.
That's my first
Jane.
name.
I should know you.
Anyway.
By the way,
did you
Jane,
like-
Marjorie has told a
Yeah.
story for years about a woman who
Yeah?
took care of her son who took $500 of cash out of one of the drawers. Is that you?
No, that was not me.
Okay,
that was
go-
not me.
go ahead, Jane.
I do remember they would only, and speaking of food, eat Annie's mac and cheese. Is that you?
That's right.
That's like
Annie's
every
mac
kid
and
in
cheese.
America.
Yes.
Okay, Jane.
Okay,
thank
there
you.
we
Okay,
go.
Let's get to it here. What are we
He
calling
was the most
about?
adorable child in America,
Oh,
of
my
course.
God. He just got married.
He just
he
got
was?
married.
Yeah.
Yep. He just got married.
She wasn't invited to the wedding, Jane.
That shows you how.
She stole the money.
I have a quick story. I live
What is it?
outside of the city, and I went into Brookline yesterday, and it couldn't have come at a better time to have this segment. I was at an Asian restaurant with my daughter. I never drink alcohol, but I was really looking for something like nice last night because of the heat.
Yeah.
We had a long day. Didn't get my drink, and then another time. And then when I was eating my meal, I literally had a huge plate of food in front of me, like halfway, and he took the plate out from under me, and I said, "Wait, I'm not done yet." And he goes, "Oh." And then the worst part was when I went to pay the bill, he brought the thing over with the credit card, and I was about to write the tip. He leaned in and watched me while I was about to write the tip, which really, really unnerved me. And I said, "Do you mind?" And he walked away. He goes, "Oh, sure."
Okay, we don't want to get anybody in trouble.
No, don't say that.
I'm not going to say the name.
I didn't say the restaurant.
No, I know you
Don't,
didn't.
no,
I know you
no.
didn't.
But it begin with a B?
Well,
Did
are you there?
Did it begin with a B, Jane?
No, it did not.
Try
Okay.
the other 25
Okay.
letters.
The reason was I had a B restaurant.
It began with a J, like my name.
Oh, Jay.
Jay.
Hey, Jane,
Okay.
stay on hold. Give your last name to the producers so Marjorie
I will.
can find out if you're the
Absolutely.
thief or not.
I-
Thank
I
you.
didn't- I didn't babysit that many times, but I did a few times.
Jane,
Okay.
thanks for a great
Thank
call.
you. That was a
We
great
appreciate it.
call. You know, I mean, I've had that happen. Sometimes you feel like the restaurant is so hip that you're kind of like out of it. You know what I mean? And I've been to restaurants like that where I feel like there's a whole
You're not comfortable.
there's
You
a
can't
whole
be yourself.
mood there,
Yeah.
and you're not with the vibe, and that the the waiter thinks you're a real jerk is kind of the experience.
You know what
I've
another
had.
thing is, which is
It's
obvious.
very embarrassing.
Obvious. Marjorie and I went out to dinner about 2 years ago when a new restaurant opened in a part of Boston. We're not going to say where because you know what the restaurant was. With Jared.
With
The three of
Jared,
us went
that's
out.
right.
The restaurant was
Oh,
fabulous.
that's right.
I wasn't done yet. They didn't just take my plate away. What'd they say to us?
You've been here long enough. Time
Literally,
to go.
we had to leave
Yeah.
the damn
We had to
restaurant.
leave. Yeah, time's up.
And you know what I said? Remember
And
what
we
I said
spent
to
a
the
lot
guy?
of money.
I said, "Do you know who I am?" And he said, "Yes, I do." No, that didn't come up. I didn't do that. It was horrifying, by the way.
Yeah, that's
and
pretty
this
bad.
whole notion that when you make a reservation now, you probably don't know this, on Resi or on Open
Yep.
Table, it says occasionally you have 90 minutes. But if you're close to the end game and you've ordered a decent amount of food or drinks, give it a rest, you know? I mean, really.
That was very embarrassing for us all.
Very
We had to
embarrassing for us
skulk
all.
out, with our tails between our legs, as it
Exactly.
were. Matt from Jamaica Plain, thank you for
Hello,
calling.
Matt.
Hey, good afternoon. How you doing?
We're good.
Fine,
Thanks for
thanks.
calling.
So you hit on so many things. I have a lot of things.
Please.
You touched on one. The QR code kills me because my wife and I often leave our phones at home intentionally to just sit down and connect.
Good point. Good point, Matt.
So you go over this. Oh, the menu's on the QR code, and then we kind of say, "Oh, so sorry. We neither of us have our phones." And then they like roll their eyes, like, "Oh, I think there's one in the back. Let me check.
Yeah,
maybe I could print it." And like, no, I'm not, criticizing anyone. I get it. They're just trying to save money on printing. The restaurant industry is hard, but it's like, when did it become like a norm to like just have the phone as a menu? You know,
Well, COVID is it happening?
I am so with you, Matt.
Too.
And you know what you just said?
I agree with you.
But what you just said, I'm going to let you
Yeah,
go in a
I
second.
do,
But the idea of that's what I mean, that you're not cool enough to be at this restaurant. Like if you do something like that and they look at you like, oh my God, I mean, what a bunch of
and like
Okies from
having your phone
Muskogee.
at dinner is not.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not cool. Like,
Exactly.
it's not cool to have your phone.
It is not.
I'll tell you what, though. What I really want is when I was little, my uncle used to live on Appleton Street, Doug Rindell, and he used to take me once a spring. He used to take me out to the fanciest restaurant in Boston. Once it was Lockover, once it was the Four Seasons, once it was Anthony's Pier 4. And I used to love that little, like, straight razor that they come around between courses and, like, scoop up the crumbs.
I love that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I just wish everyone would have that. You know, I love that thing.
That is a fabulous one we left off.
Yeah, that's really annoying if they don't
Look at all
clear
that
your
thing.
table well between courses.
You know what's more annoying, though?
What?
When you're out with like 3 other people and you are the messiest person by far, and they take the plates up and all the crap is under yours. You ever had that experience, Matt?
No, I'm very fastidious when I eat, Jim.
Okay, fine. Matt, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
That's one of us, I
So
should say.
we have a texter who says, this is odd.
Sure.
I hate it when there's not enough knockwurst in my eggs.
Well, that's because I mentioned yesterday, you weren't paying attention, that my eggs yesterday and today had chopped knockwurst in them that I brought to work with me. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Chop up
it's
little
an
knockwurst,
inside,
you fry it.
an inside
no, it wasn't
joke.
inside. It was outside. We said it on
Outside,
the air
okay, I
yesterday.
didn't get it. I didn't
Weren't
get
paying
it.
attention.
Let's go to Eliza on Cape Cod.
Hello,
Thank you for
Eliza.
calling.
Hi.
Hi, Jim.
Yeah, hello?
I work at a very high-end restaurant. It is a tasting menu. And if you ask for salt and pepper, you would be asked to leave because the chefs have curated an entire meal. They spent a long time making it exactly the way they want it. And if you ask for salt and pepper or hot sauce or anything, they would say, I'm so sorry. It doesn't seem like we are here to, like, you're here for our meal this evening, so maybe you should find another place for dinner. But, like, a really high-end chef, which, by the way, he is kind of a a-hole, but truly, a really high-end chef, they think that it's so offensive to ask for salt and pepper or anything else because they made it the way it's supposed to taste. And if it doesn't taste like that, then it's not what they made. And so they won't let you, like, in my restaurant at all, have salt and pepper.
Wait a second. So if I asked for pepper,
Yeah,
I don't
she'll
need
leave.
extra salt. I do ask for pepper. If I asked for pepper, you wouldn't be able to give it to me?
Not even a little bit.
Okay, so Eliza, by the way, I'm glad you called because I actually think that's a semi-legitimate point. And if I were the chef, I might feel the
Are
same way.
you kidding me? I can never have enough salt.
I was going to say, Marjorie, I am an eater who likes more pepper on food than the average diner does. So that's not disrespectful to the chef. The chef thinks that's the way he or she or they want it prepared, but I want it a little more peppery. So that doesn't.
They think of themselves as artists.
Well, that's a good
And you want to change the art that they're creating. And they created this art specifically for you. It's supposed to taste exactly the way it does. And if it's not that, then it's not their art anymore.
I love
Okay, Eliza, now I want to know what you think of this since you work there. Do you think this person is a little bit over the top here, or do you think this is okay? What?
She says they're occasionally
Totally
big
over the top.
a-holes.
Totally over the top. Yeah, yeah.
Totally over the
top.
I'm with you,
But
Eliza.
it's amazing food.
I'm not going to ask you to tell
And
us
it's
the
worth
name of
it.
the joint unless you want to. What town is
No,
it in?
sir.
What town is it in?
West Dennis.
Okay. Do me a favor.
West Dennis.
It'll make me happy. I'm going to put you on hold. Can you tell our producer, I promise I won't say the name on the air. Tell the producer the name of the restaurant. It'll be satisfying to me. Eliza, that was an excellent call. Thank you. Can someone please get the info from
I
Eliza?
think there's not that many high-end
I know, but
restaurants in
don't-
West Dennis.
let's
You
not
might be
do
able to
that.
figure it
She
out. No,
will.
we shouldn't do it.
I'm going to try to figure
Very
it out.
bad, very bad. Okay, Lauren in Boston. What do you think, Lauren?
Hello, Lauren in Boston.
Good afternoon, you guys.
Hi.
So, like Jim, eating out is one of my favorite sports.
Without a doubt.
So, I'm into that. So I have 3 quick things. A couple that have already been mentioned. The taking the food without asking is a big deal. Or my drink. Do not touch my cocktail before I'm done. Or let's just ask. Just ask.
You wouldn't like eating with Jim, Lauren.
No, she's not talking about a fellow diner. She's talking about the server, Marjorie.
Oh, okay. Because Jim does that all the time.
Are we talking about that or are we talking
Right,
about that? Thank
dives
you.
right
Okay.
across the table.
Lauren, you're doing
with
great.
His hands.
Keep going. Go ahead.
So sorry, Marjorie. I was talking about the server.
Oh, that's okay. I'm
But
sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sharing is caring. You know, sharing is caring, but you should kind of
Oh, that's
ask.
beautiful, Lauren.
I never called it on the last one, but my way in there is that it depends on who the company is. If you know them well or not, kind of depends. But anyhow, the second one is television.
Oh.
I could not stand televisions. I don't even own one, never have. But we weren't allowed to watch TV when we were children while we were eating because it was rude and disrespectful to your fellow diners at the table. So
what's the third thing? I want to comment
out.
on the TV. What's the third thing?
So to the QR code, I'm going to give an example on Newbury Street. I went into a restaurant, never saw anyone ever, ordered with a QR code. Someone dropped my food off. I couldn't get a glass of water to save my soul.
Oh, my God.
And they asked for a tip.
Oh!
They ordered a tip. Like, what am I tipping for?
That's wild.
Hey, Lauren, can we go back to the TV thing for a second? I can't believe you're the first person to mention that. If you go to a sports bar, you should expect there to be TVs everywhere. When you go to a good restaurant that is maybe stretching your budget a little bit because you really want fine food and a nice environment, when did it start that there were TVs everywhere? That drives me out of my mind.
Yes, I'm right with you.
Okay.
I think it's horrible. And even if you don't want to watch it, it's distracting, right? So you tend to, it distracts you away from the person you're trying to talk to, even if you don't want to watch the TV.
Lauren, that was a great call.
Unless you're going to sit at a bar and watch the Celtics or something
I
like
said
that.
a sports bar. It's fine.
That's different.
By the way, Nicole, our colleague, says, my pet peeve is when I dine with a group before a show, and then I can't finish my meal and have to store my food under a Tesla.
That's right. We know that situation was true because we
Christmas
went for our
last year.
Christmas dinner with the staff, and Jim hurried everybody up so much they couldn't even finish their dinner.
Why did I hurry people up?
You were rushing everybody through
Why?
the meal because we had to get to a show.
Exactly.
But we
The show was starting.
We got to the show about 20 minutes early. Didn't we get there about 20 minutes early?
I wanted to greet the fans.
But the meal was very stressful for everyone involved because all Jim said was hurry up.
Yeah, but can I tell you, I said hurry
We're
up.
shoving the food in as fast as
By the
we
way,
can.
someone just wrote it was not starting. Maybe it wasn't. Because I want to say one thing. I left early saying, follow me. Nobody followed me. I'm standing outside
that's
the
a sign.
Armenian, whatever it is, in South Boston for Ryan Landry's show. And I was there like 30 minutes by myself.
Okay, here's an important text for
What
you,
is
Jim.
it, please?
Don't you spend enough time, Jim, being upset about all the current events? Now you've got to be upset about restaurants, too?
No, actually, I'm not.
Chill out.
Can I tell you something?
What?
If every one of these things that Carabaskin, you, me, or the
Yep.
callers mentioned, I would still love dining out. As that one caller said before, one of the great pleasures in modern life.
Unless you're having to get somewhere quickly and,
You find this funny?
Yes,
I
I
don't find
do.
this funny.
Here's another texter from our staff.
Yeah.
Our fearless leader, Jim Browdy.
That's me.
When no one followed him out the door, that's because we're Marjorie's staff.
That's so funny. No, that really, you can see me laughing. I'm having a great time. So what's your, you remember we went to that restaurant, and we're not going to say where, and we got kicked out, essentially? You remember that?
Yes.
I do remember that. That was not polite of them.
No, it's very embarrassing.
What's your restaurant pet peeve, Jared Bowen?
It's when they take your food away, or more, when they take the martini glass away, and you still have that one last.
Exactly.
I typically only have one drink, and I will sip it, or as we used to say in college,
Yes.
did you change your major to nursing because you're nursing that drink, and you're relishing that last sip, and then the next thing you know, it's gone because they just took it away.
I know. Then you
That's
feel
horrible.
like you really got a problem if you're saying, hold on.
No, it's
You're that
embarrassing.
little bottom of the thing. You
Why
think,
do they
boy,
do that, though?
you're really
I'm totally
desperate
with the
shape.
caller and Jared.
I don't
There's a little
know.
bit left in the cocktail. Let us drink the damn cocktail.
I don't know.
And just to jog your memories, I was at that dinner where Jim was running down the street, running to the
Oh, you
theater.
were.
Ryan,
You
don't
were.
start without me.
forgot you were there.
Remember Marjorie and I? We hung back. We had the second course that
That's
night.
funny.
right.
We had another glass of wine.
Okay, that's
Exactly.
great. Okay, good.
Jim was
Thank you.
running down the streets of
Okay.
South Boston.
You made your point. You said that once.
All alone.
Okay.
No one following
Yeah.
him. It
I was
a
there on
beautiful
time,
thing.
wasn't I?
You were 14 minutes early.
Yeah,
I was a
we
little
were
early.
all there on time.
Okay, let's move on.
And Jim was all alone.
Okay, fine. We've heard enough of that.
Saving a seat.
Saving a seat.
Saving
right.
all the seats.
We sat someplace else.
Okay. Different theater, actually. Where are you? What are you? What are you? Who are you?
So-
What are you doing on the show there?
Coming up on the Culture Show, we have James Sullivan, who has written a book about protest songs.
I
He
am
actually wrote it.
totally
Oh, good.
He wrote it several years ago, but now, in this moment, there is a new series happening at the Lizard Lounge in Cambridge looking at protest songs in America throughout American history, and it's all inspired by his book, so we'll talk about that. We talked about pets earlier on. Alan Price, director of the JFK Library Museum,
great.
is going to talk about presidential pets That's their new exhibition. And then Mary Grant is here, president of Mass Art, to talk about education funding, as that has been
one of your best guests.
Going back and forth in the wind, yes.
She's great.
She's
Jared's
great,
good
and
to
Mass
see you.
Art is a great school, state school too, so you get a little bit cut rate there for a great education.
A lot
Thanks,
of people
Jared.
think that Jared was the ringleader of the decision for people to lay back and not obey my direction.
I was not texting under the table, I promise you.
Not listen to him, not obey my direction.
Exactly.
Okay.
Speaking truth to power.
All right.
See you, Jared.
Thank you for listening to another edition of
Marjorie's
Boston
having
Public
fun
Radio.
with us.
I am.
Yeah.
Thank you to people who came down to the
Thank
Boston
you
Public
all. We
Library.
appreciate
Keep
it.
up with this 24/7 way of our podcast. We also have this great TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow we're going to be joined by Axios Dan Primack on the economy, all questions about the economy. Our former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety, Andrew Cabral, staff writer at The Atlantic, Mark Leibovich. He is so talented. Used to work for the Boston Phoenix, by the way, and the New York Times. Now he's at The Atlantic. And Frontline's James Jacoby with a great piece about Iran and the nuclear deal over there. I want to
And
thank.
by the way, Leibovich's piece, which we're talking about, is Where's Barack Obama?
That's right. Our crew, Zoe Matthews, fantastic debut,
You were
talking
great,
with Cy
Zoe.
Montgomery, Aiden Colley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, John the Claw Parker, Nia Harmon, Jamie Bologna, the BPL staff, the guys across the street at the Lennox Hotel, and the people across the room here at the Newsfeed Cafe. Thank you very much. Stay tuned to The Culture Show with Jared Bowen right after us. I'm Marjorie Egan.
Jim Browdy.
Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you can tune in tomorrow. And meanwhile, have a great afternoon.